Council agenda meeting, August 6, 2013. Public invited, public participation. Meeting called to order by myself, 7:30 p.m. Please rise for a flag salute. Mr. Nelson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Karifi.
Here.
Mr. DePiero.
Here.
Mr. Ferrara.
Here.
Mr. Nelson.
Here.
Mr. Stanton.
Here. Others present, Mayor Barbario, Jasmine Lim, Business Administrator, John Inglesino Esquire, Township Attorney, Yancy Wazirmis, Township Clerk. Purpose of this meeting is to set the agenda for the regular Township meeting of August 20th, 2013. Formal action may or may not be taken.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Law by filing the notice of the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the municipal building on December 10, 2012, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appearing both the Daily Record on December 14, 2012 and the Star Ledger on December 13, 2012. That was forwarded by fax to other local newspaper and local radio station on December 10, 2012. In addition, adequate notice of the location change of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the notice on the bulletin board at the municipal building on July 22, 2013, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record on July 22, 2013, and was forwarded by fax to the Star Ledger, Parsippany Life, and local radio station on July 29, 2013. Note, council meetings are videotaped and air on Cablevision Public Access Channel 21 at 12 p.m. on Sundays. They're also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net.
Resolution R 2013-165. Mr. DiPiero.
Resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills ratifying the revision of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills schedule of Township Council meetings for 2013.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DiPiero, second by Mr. Karifi. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
Mr. Stanton.
Yes. Presentations, Gable Associates, Community Energy Aggregation Program.
Council President, we have Robert Chilton from Gable Associates here. He'll make a brief presentation on the energy aggregation program and then open it up for questions and answers from the audience.
Sounds good.
Be down there.
Did you want to start with the PowerPoint?
We're going down.
Mr. Inglesino, how are you?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Bob Chilton. I'm with a firm called Gable Associates. We are an energy consulting firm that's been retained by the township to try to implement this community energy aggregation program. And what I wanted to do tonight was just give you a brief overview of what the program's about, and then, more importantly, I think open it up to any questions that folks may have regarding how the program runs. Okay. So I'll give you an overview of Community Energy Aggregation Program. So the program is implemented under a law called the Government Energy Aggregation Law, which was passed by the New Jersey legislature some 10 years or so ago. And there's also a whole set of rules under which the program is run that have been adopted by the Board of Public Utilities, who oversee all the energy and utility matters in the state. Under the state rules, the township, the first step would be to pass an ordinance to establish a community energy aggregation program. I believe that ordinance has had a first reading. It has not yet been adopted. That is still under consideration by the township. The township will release a request for proposals, put that out publicly, where they will invite all New Jersey licensed third-party suppliers, those are power suppliers that are in the marketplace, invite them to make proposals to supply electricity to township residents who are not currently served by a third-party supplier. So importantly, if you already have a third-party supply contract that you've gone out on your own and gotten, and statewide, on average, about 15% of residents have already done their own shopping and done their own contract. If you have one of those contracts, you will not be forced to go into this. You will not be included in the pool. You can keep your existing contract. The RFP may also include a request for proposals to serve businesses in the program. This would typically be small businesses who decide to opt into the program as well, if they don't have their own third-party supply contract. The whole point here is for the township has the ability through this law to put thousands of electric accounts together to create some buying power, to go out to the marketplace and to buy a bulk of power, hopefully at a good price that will save money. After the RFP is put out, the bids will come in, and the township and its consultants will analyze the bids and determine the most beneficial bid to award, if any. The township will only award a contract if the bid price is below the current price being charged by JCP&L. Again, this is for the power supply part of the bill. The delivery still is done by JCP&L. That doesn't change. That part of the bill stays exactly the same. The aim here is to reduce the price on the power supply part of the bill. And very simply, both by common sense and by law, if none of the bids produce any savings, the township will not and cannot award a contract. It's just that simple, and that's the end of it. So once the award of the, assuming there's a good bid or more that come in and there's an award of a contract, the next step is the township residents will receive what's called a notification letter. This is a form of letter that's actually in a format that's approved by the Board of Public Utilities. That will go out shortly after the contract award, and that will provide all the information on the program and the specifics of the contract, including the price, how long the contract is, the term of the contract. They tend to run between 1 and 2 years, depending on where we get the best price. The estimated savings on that contract as compared to the JCP&L tariff, and information on how to opt out of the program if you do not wish to participate. Again, this is something that if you don't like it for whatever reason, you can opt out, and that letter will provide you information. It's very easy. The notification letter will include in the package a postage paid postcard, essentially, with your information on it. And if you don't want to be included, you could just sign that, stick it back in the mail, back to the supplier, and you'll be opted out. Or you can just call an 800 phone number that will be provided, and you can opt out, and that's the end of it. After the 30, it's a 30-day process, a 30-day period you have to decide whether or not you want to opt out or not. After the 30-day opt-out period, the supplier will then take the accounts that are still in the program, that have not opted out, and will send them into JCP&L to enroll them in the process. There's a process by which JCP&L accepts all the enrollments, and then what they do is they send out sort of a generic letter automatically informing the customer, hey, there's been a submission of an enrollment request for your account, just notifying you again one more time. And then once that process goes through, you will be enrolled in the program, and the power supply will start. Now, even after the initial enrollment period, if during that 30-day opt-out period initially you don't submit an opt-out, if for any reason at any time during the contract, a month in, 3 months in, 6 months in, whatever, you can opt out. You can call the supplier, opt out, and you get out of the contract. No penalties. There's no provisions preventing you from doing that. There's no fees or anything. You can get out anytime you want. Again, so all residents, except those that already have a third-party supplier contract, as I mentioned, are automatically included at the front end. But then residents can opt out at any time without a penalty. The township will only enter into a third-party supply contract if the cost is below JCP&L's price. I'm sort of recapping here. JCP&L will continue to provide the delivery of power and the reliability. That doesn't change. If for some reason in a storm or a car hits a pole or something, the lights go out, that's JCP&L. They still operate the distribution system. Nothing changes there. You will still receive one bill for electricity from JCP&L. The only change will simply be one of the line items that JCP&L currently has on the bill, which is your power supply charge, will be replaced with a power supply charge from the new supplier, and by definition it will be a lower charge, because if it wasn't, the contract would not have been awarded in the first place. Also, this is always a question that folks ask those that have budget billing or equal payment plan arrangements. Somewhere between 10 and 15% of customers typically have this arrangement with the utility. A lot of times it's folks on fixed incomes, et cetera, that want to keep a levelized payment throughout the year. The power supplier, one of the terms in the RFP that we put out is that the power supplier has to continue to provide equal payment plan for those customers that currently have those arrangements with JCP&L. So you maintain that levelized payment structure. So what are the benefits of the program? Obviously, the most important one is reduced energy prices. The competitive process and the putting together of a lot of accounts, thousands of accounts, provides purchasing power and hopefully provides a lower rate. So far, this program is still relatively new, but it's now catching on more and more. There are 2 towns in New Jersey that have already completed this process and have had power supplied under a community energy contract in Plumstead, New Jersey, and Toms River, both in Ocean County. And folks there are saving 10 to 15% roughly on their power bills, so that works out to $120 to $180 a year, excuse me. So that really is the main point of this. And also consumer protection. Both as required by rules and as put into the terms and conditions of the RFP when we go out to bid, it's very simple. The price has to be fixed for the term of the contract, no changes, no bait and switch, anything like that. No hidden fees, the ability to opt out at any time. Essentially, you don't have to worry about anything. There are a lot of deals out there in the marketplace, a lot of suppliers. You've probably gotten mailings, you've probably gotten phone calls, and there are deals out there, and some of them have fine print, some of them have different terms. I've experienced it myself, where you switch and you get a good price, and then 3 months or 6 months later, the price suddenly goes up, and it's hard to figure out why. You try to figure it out. So it's very simple. It's all about simplicity in this context. It's one price fixed, term of the contract. The term of the contract is fixed. There's no automatic renewal. It's for whatever it say. It's 18 months. It's 18 months, and that's it. One price, and then it ends at the end. And then the township, if it was successful, presumably would rebid, go out for a new bid for a new contract. The contract doesn't automatically roll over. It just ends after the 18 months, and that's the end of it. Transparency. Again, once the contract award is made, all the residents will receive a mailing with the price, the term of the contract, the savings as compared to the utility tariff, and all the information you need. There's nothing hidden here. Everything is provided so you can make an informed decision. Again, customer choice. You can opt out at any time without any fees. No hassle. You're still getting one bill from JCP&L. No change there. You just pay the one bill to JCP&L. And it just provides a way for local purchasing, where currently when you buy power from the utility, including the power supply, really what's happening is the utility is going out in the marketplace on their own in the wholesale market through an auction process that's overseen by the state and mandated by the state, and they buy your power for you. The utility doesn't produce the power directly any longer. So they're procuring the power for you under state rules. Under this process, it's more of a local effort, where now your local municipality that's looking out after your interest is going out and trying to get a deal that's better than the utility, and with terms and conditions that are transparent and easy. So the next steps in the process, first, as I mentioned, the township, under the rules, would have to first adopt an ordinance officially forming the Community Energy Aggregation Program, and that's something I know is on the agenda for consideration in the near future. The next step would be that the draft bid specifications and the draft contract that would be with the supplier are presented to the New Jersey Division of Rate Counsel and the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities for their review. So part of the rule process is the bid specifications, the contract terms are all reviewed by the regulatory folks that are overseeing this whole program, and they review the specifications to make sure they're in compliance with all the applicable laws. After that process, the bids are finalized, the bids go out on the street, and the bid is conducted under local public contract law, so they're noticed and they're public out there, and every supplier has an opportunity to respond. The tentative schedule, again, this is tentative because there's no commitments been made yet, would be for the release of that RFP somewhere around the end of September, and to accept bids somewhere around the mid-October. That's, again, a tentative schedule. If there were an award made as a result of the bids that came in mid-October, the initial opt-out period, again, where the notification letters would be sent out, and then you would have an opportunity to decide whether to opt out, that would run from early November through early December. At the end of that 30-day process, under this sort of tentative schedule, once the 30-day opt-out period ended, the enrollment would occur in December, and then power would start flowing in January, so that would be the start of the contract. So you would start in your February bill, you would see the new lower charges for the first time in your power bill. So that is basically a rundown of the program, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Does it make sense for folks to come up and maybe? Okay, gotcha. Okay, okay.
Yes. All right, if I may, I have a couple of questions. The period for the RFP, a year, year and a half, whatever, that means that we have to put out an RFP every year and a half? Is that the typical length? Okay, I'll get closer. Sorry. My question is, when we issue the RFP for the time interval, I would imagine electricity cost is predictable for about a year, maybe a year and a half. It's unpredictable after that. So the longer we make our RFP for, the higher the cost is going to be, because they have to hedge their bets, I would assume, in the later time periods when they can't predict what the cost is. Is that correct?
Well, in general, that's true. There are a lot of things going on in the power market that can affect the price during different time periods. And actually, for the most recent one we did, which was Tom's River, we went out to bid for 3 possible contract terms. It was 12 months, it was 15, or 21, okay? And actually, we got the lowest price for the 21-month contract. There were some things going on in the marketplace that sort of spiked prices more short-term, and then that went away in later years. So the typical way to do it is to bid for multiple contract terms and then sort of see what you get. I mean, I can tell you based upon being in the marketplace all the time, knowing the energy market, I can generally predict in advance which term will give you the best price. But what you're saying is generally true. More uncertainty with longer term, there's a higher risk premium, as usually call it. But there can be other things in the marketplace that counteract that. So the best approach is to, ask for 2 or 3 different contract terms and see where the sweet spot is. There could be, maybe short, maybe the midterm one is the best for various reasons. So,
Okay, assuming the first RFP looks like it's good for 18 months, how far in advance of that do we begin issue a new RFP for periods after that?
it's a little shorter than this process because you will have already had the ordinance in place. There's another step to put in place an agreement with JCP&L under which they would provide certain information. So that shortens it a little, but it's still under the BP rules. It's not a quick process because there are many steps to go through to make sure everything is done the right way. So I would say it's still a good, 5 months or so before. And you can start it earlier if you want. There's no reason to wait.
5 or
So.
6 months. Okay, one more question. I lost my train of thought. Assuming we have 18 months, we issue a new RFP, we get a new price. That's an administrative overhead that I guess the township absorbs.
Really, that's something that we take care of, and we get paid at the end of the day by the supplier. So there really isn't any expense additional expense to the township, whether you went out to bid every 6 months or every 2 years. It really, from your perspective, it really wouldn't matter.
Okay. Last question. If these purchasers of electricity can get us a cheaper rate, why can't JCP&L give us a cheaper rate?
Primarily because the way that the state mandates that they buy power, they mandate that they buy power in 3-year chunks at a time. And what that's kind of resulted in over time is their portfolio is more expensive than what you can get currently in the marketplace. Yes. So it's the way that the state mandates the utilities buy power is not necessarily resulting in the lowest price right now. So there's an opportunity now, and there has been for the last year, to obtain power in the market lower than the price of JCP&L's portfolio under the way the state mandates they buy power. That could change in 3, 4, 5 years, and maybe it's reversed, and maybe 2 bids down the road, there may not be savings. That's certainly possible. But certainly today and for the near term, market prices that we can get through a bulk purchase are generally cheaper than JCP&L's portfolio as sort of accumulated over time under the state rules on how they buy their power.
Okay, thank you.
I have 2 questions, really. The first one is, if for whatever reason, let's say there's an 18-month contract. The 18 months, we're approaching the 18 months, now it's going out for rebid. Something happens with the bidding process or whatever, there's a delay. The 18-month, that contract expires. What happens to everyone's power?
They would simply revert to the JCP&L tariff.
Okay.
And pay the tariff price. So you're sort of back to where you started from, essentially.
And you're automatically re-enrolled back into JCP&L?
You are. That happens automatically. In sort of the non-governmental marketplace, typically contracts have automatic rollover provisions, things like that, where the supplier will automatically roll you over unless you do something. The rules are very clear, and on the BPU rules are very clear on this, that they just want it to be, it's like a public bid.
Right.
You go out to bid, you get a price for a term, and you're done.
So there would be nothing the resident would have to do?
Oh, no, it's automatic. The supplier simply drops the account, and they revert back to JCP&L. There's no physical change. You don't notice anything. It simply means on the 19th month, when you get your bill, you'll see JCP&L charges, unfortunately a little higher likely than what you were paying the prior month. But so you just go back to where you would have been if you had never done this in the first place.
Okay, thank you.
If a resident decides to opt out after the 30-day period,
Yep.
when's it go into effect?
It will go into effect as soon as the switching processes allow for it. In other words, the utilities, it's typically the next available meter. It's always on a meter read date. So if it happens more than 20 days before the next meter read date, it'll happen the next meter read date. If it happens inside that, it may take a little longer, say 40, 45 days, because the utilities only switch it once a month on meter read date, and they have very specific protocols. It's all done electronically, and it's all programmed. So as soon as it goes in, it goes to the next available meter read date. And again, like I said, if it's more than 20 days out, it'll happen the very next meter read date. If it's inside that, it'll go to the next meter read date.
I just have a question.
Sure.
Have you ever called an 800 number? You made it sound so easy. If these people want to opt out, the citizens of Parsippany, you could do it like that. Really? I can't wait to get that information.
Yeah.
I mean, I call a lot of 800 numbers. Push 1, go back to 3, 5, back to 1. Is it really going to be that easy?
Well, all I can tell you is this.
Is your company monitoring those?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what we actually do before the bids come in, it's not about price. We also ask for all the qualifications and all that information. So we'll actually do, as part of our vetting process, we'll actually call their numbers and see what the response is. And the other thing we do, too, is all of the firms that, the firms that are doing this now, the big players have done it, and there's about 4 other states where this has been going on for 4 or 5 years, so they have a track record. So we ask for references. We'll call the townships out in Ohio or Illinois, hey, how did the process work? Did you get complaints? And now, as we're doing more in New Jersey, we start to have a track record here. We have Con Edison Solutions that did the Plumstead program, and we haven't heard really any complaints of that nature in terms of people not being able to reach the number. Same now, we have Dominion Energy Resources as the supplier for the Toms River residents, and that's a big population down there. There's about 35,000 accounts, and we haven't heard any of those types of complaints either. So there's a vetting process before, and we're starting to get more and more experience as we go.
So if we have any complaints, I guess you'll be back. Thank you.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Mr. Shelton, earlier in the year when we had this conversation, I expressed that I had reservations about the opting out, and my ideology just makes it hard for me to go along with this. Why is it that, now I understand that the state legislature permits this, but why is it that businesses must opt in and not opt out, like the residents?
It's a sort of a different pool. For businesses, and I will tell you flat out, this program is primarily geared towards residents. The businesses are sort of, I would call it like an add-on. The number of businesses that typically participate are relatively small because most businesses have already gone out and shopped on their own. So you may have, a couple dozen, 3 dozen individual accounts, and typically it's very small businesses that haven't opted in. So it's not a large enough pool. Now on the residential side, each customer, but on the other hand, it's a smaller pool, but they're bigger. Each one is somewhat bigger. Residents, each one is small. There's a really high cost of marketing for third-party suppliers to get to residential customers. And the experience was, before the law was changed to make it opt out, it originally was opt in, the experience was that the market just didn't get off the ground, because for each residential customer that may use 8,000, 9,000 kilowatt hours a year, it's really a tiny amount, the cost to acquire each of those customers is so high that they can't save any money because their marketing costs per customer are quite high. So it really, the reason it's in the law is because the realities of the marketplace, it just simply didn't work under the opt-in process because there was such a high inertia to overcome in terms of getting customers to, reaching them, getting them to opt in, and it sort of just fell by its own weight. So the conclusion was either it's opt out or the program itself wouldn't even be authorized. I think that's the conclusion the legislature reached.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, at this time, anyone in the audience have any questions?
They have to come
All right,
up.
just
Please
come
come
up to
up.
the mic. You want them to sign in with their address, same setup? I think so. Just need you to sign in once you come up.
Brian.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's only on this. You're going to be given 3 minutes to ask questions on this only.
Sigmund Balaban, 10 Grecian Street. I want to understand clearly that there is it's been legislated that I am forced to opt in. Is that correct?
No, actually,
The legislation actually provides that the customers, if the township approves the program, customers are initially included if you don't have a third-party supply agreement, but you have the ability to opt out. So it's an opt-out model.
Since I only have 3 minutes, I'll just shoot the questions at you, and you can play with them later as you see fit. I'm concerned about being forced to depend on somebody else when I say no. So I'd rather say, I'm out now and opt in. The second thing is, or another thing is, why did your organization send a letter to the Utility Commission on March 13th, 13, having a problem with payments? Another thing is, who does the contract? Is somebody going to represent me that I don't know? I like to review my own contracts. I'd also like to know what the difference in rate will be if I did it as an individual as opposed to a group. It makes sense it should be as a group would be cheaper. May not be. I don't know. I have a lot of concerns. I have concerns that you have connections with whoever, and you may have a preference that might not be in our best interest. It's possible. Things have happened. We're depending on an administration. Administrations change. We could be left holding the bag. It's happened in the past where, I think, Mr. DePiro, you pointed out, separate issue, when somebody asked you about a write-off and you indicated under a certain administration something was done where funds were reallocated. So it can change from administration to administration. I'm old school. I like to depend on myself. I didn't ask for this. I've seen the literature. I've elected not to go in. Now somebody comes in and says, you're in until you tell me you're out. Okay? I'll tell you right now, 10 Grecian Street, Balaban family, we're out. Thank you.
My name's Kevin Hagan. I live on Dogwood Lane in the Intervale section. In the interest of full disclosure, I am an Ambit energy consultant. I'm an independent consultant. And my first question is, why is the municipal government involved with energy? What is the incentive for the government to do that? I mean, is there any benefit? Because we have limited resources. I understand that our town consumes probably in excess of $100 million per year for electric, for residentially. But are all the municipal buildings and school buildings, are they opting in? And also, when people are bidding, like I'm an independent consultant. Now, when I sign up customers, we don't have a contract, by the way. Ambit Energy does not have a contract, because if we guarantee our lowest price, the lowest price, and if you're not happy with it, at any time you can leave. But in order for me to sign someone to enroll somebody, they have to agree to do it with not signing a contract, but we used a third-party verification system. Now, for me to sign up any customer, I have to get their customer number off their bill. How does the town or anybody get the bills or all that private information disclosed? Because no one's supposed to know your account number, your customer number, which is different than your account number. So I think the fact that the city is involved or wants to become involved with a private commerce situation, I find a little disturbing. And I would like to know why. Why does the municipal government want to get involved with my energy bill? Or the fact that if everybody opts in automatically and you have to opt out, I mean, as an independent consultant, that leaves me high and dry. So that's my concern. Can you answer any
Thanks. Sure. So I don't think I can remember all of them, but I know, with regard to the reason for the township doing, obviously the township officials, will speak for themselves, but I will tell you that the rules and the law prevent a municipality that's doing this from benefiting at all. There's no broker fees or anything going to the municipality. That's very clear in the law. So the reason for doing it is to try to save the majority of folks some money, and that's really it. With regard to the information, the customer information, that at the back end of the process, once the contract award is made, that is provided to the township by the utility under strict confidentiality rules. Again, that's all dictated by the BPU. So it's all provided for in the BPU rules, and there's a process for that. There's terms under that where the utility provides it to the township, so then you can start the process of notifying customers and giving them the opportunity to opt out. So.
Mary Przicki, 273 Marcella Road. I have to take an affront with this whole thing. I mean, I am the homeowner of my house, and it is my property, and I like to give it the say yes or no, and I would have rather you said that I can opt in and be invited to opt in than mandatorily to say that I am going to be put into something. I totally object. What kind of country are we running here, the United States of America? And the government becomes so intrusive on my house. And then you take my information, my private information, my right to the private information under privacy rules, and you go and you let Jersey Central Power and Light give it to any company. The first company, yes, oh, okay, we're there for 18 months. Second company gets my information. Oops, don't like them. Third company gets my information. Where are we going? Where are we going? What control do I have over my own personal information? And then you talk about, oh, it's fluctuating, the rates, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I had stockbrokers who told me what fluctuation was going to be and how much money I was going to make. Ha ha, up, down, up, down, up, down. I mean, this is a utility that is based on buying and selling. To me, this is big corporation coming to make big money on little old me, and I have no say in the matter. Thank you.
Pat Pataccia, 182 Hawkins Avenue. I also have, I would prefer an opt-in. I have a third party already. So am I going to get your letter in the mail and I'm going to have to opt out?
No, as I said earlier, you're not even included. So yes, you're not. You wouldn't be included from the beginning, because as I said, at the end of the process, JCP&L, once we award a contract, will provide the list of accounts that are. Oh, there you go. So let's go back and forth. So provides a list of accounts that in the township that currently do not have a third-party supplier contract. So we would never get your information from the get-go.
Okay. And the one thing I'm really upset with, I don't like this. I don't like being told that this is the electric company. You have the right to either opt out or whatever. I agree with everybody that was up here. The other thing that bothers me is I want to know from the council, did we speak to any other company other than Gable? Or we just opened it up to Gable and that was it? We didn't have anybody else, any other electric companies, third parties come in to see what they had to offer?
I don't think the council has the power to do that. It's the administration, correct?
I'm asking the question, did we have,
Not up to us.
Just to clarify, Gable Associates are our consultants. They're not the electric company.
Okay.
They're not an electric provider.
all right, so
They
they're
will-
going to pick the best out of what they find for
They'll
this?
make a recommendation to the township
Okay.
on who to go with at what, at what term.
Okay. And there's no way that the town can just do this on their own and not include the residents? Because I know in my mailbox, I get third-party letters constantly to sign up. I mean, I think everybody else gets them. If they're not signing off on them, they don't want to change. I mean, I think you're forcing people to do stuff that they do not want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Don Rosenthal, 18 Farmstead Drive. I understand from what you said that this X company will provide a budget for me. So coupled with that, with JCP&L, with their budget, I can have a fixed amount. My question is, how is this company X supposed to determine my budget when they don't even know my usage? How are they going to do that?
They do it the same way that JCP&L does it. In other words, JCP&L will look at your annual usage, multiply it times the rate, come up with an annual amount, divide by 12, essentially. So the new supplier, once they are signed up and once they have the accounts, they will, for JCP&L will provide your 12-month usage history, and they'll do the same math. So since the rate is lower, it's the same kilowatt hours, as JCP&L had. They divide by 12. So your monthly amount for the power supply piece should be lower than with JCP&L. They do the exact same math.
Let me tell you, several years ago I signed up for one. My total savings for the year was less than $1 a month. So what was the point of this whole thing? It's just an exercise in futility. The third thing is that I could never get them on the phone. And this I think is just, I'm not sure this whole thing is workable. I really don't. Thank you.
You're good, sir.
Rich Suarez, 5 McNeil Drive. A couple of questions. One, if you're saying that we won't be charged by the company, whoever that is, to opt out, can JCP&L charge us a fee to opt back in on their grid?
No, they're also prohibited by BPU rules from doing that.
Okay. Who's going to read the meters?
Oh, that doesn't change. The JCP&L reads the meter.
So the JCP&L people are still going to come around once every other month and read the meters?
Exactly.
Okay.
They'll still maintain the wires, everything.
Yeah, well, I won't go into that. You said that, we're going to get a better price than JCP&L is going to provide us with now. Now, is all this energy being purchased on the spot market or what?
No, in order to give you guarantee a fixed price for a 12-month or 18-month or 24-month period, they're going out in the marketplace and locking up the energy. They're going out to suppliers and getting a fixed wholesale, and they pass it through. So it's not, by definition, it's not the spot market, because that would be much more risky.
Right.
Yeah.
Summer rates. JCP&L now has a summer rate program. Would these same months be in effect with the new provider?
No, what we generally do is just give a flat price around the year.
So my summer rate would be the same as my winter rate? Or
Correct.
my winter rate would be the same as my summer rate?
Correct.
Okay.
Well, but one rate for 12 months, so I guess you could say it either way.
Okay. You picked out 2 cities, Plumstead and Toms River. Who was their provider?
They're both in JCP&L territory.
They're both in JCP&L territory. Were either one of those cities being serviced by a nuclear power plant at the time?
There are none that really are. It's the nuclear plants that are operating in a few in New Jersey and others, in the surrounding region. They sell into the wholesale market. They're no longer affiliated with individual utilities, so They're just like any other wholesale power supplier, so you can't say that one town or one group of accounts is served by any one power plant.
Okay, because it seems like, they have a, 14...
Sir, 30 seconds.
Yeah, you're quoting 14% interest, so I was wondering if prior to that there was a spike because they were on a nuclear power plant, and then, there were costs associated with the plant, and that's why they were able to get such a big saving.
No, they really just have wholesale power, as I described earlier. The state tells the utilities, JCP&L, PSE&G, et cetera, how to buy their power in the wholesale market from wholesalers, which put together power from a bunch of plants. And so it's the same price for everywhere across their territory.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Hi, my name is Chirno Master, 14 Greenbrier Road. You said that I have a third-party supplier already, so I won't be opt-in. But would I have an option to opt-in?
You would, sure.
So I have to go somewhere on web or?
Well, the way we would, the way it's typically done, and really the program technically is for only folks that do not have a third-party supply contract when the bid is done. What we have worked out in the last couple of programs with the supplier is once the award is made, that we give sort of also that 30-day window for folks that are on contracts and they see the deal the township got and they want to jump off their contract and come in, they can let the town know, give the town the information, and essentially it would be us on behalf of the township, and we would give that to the supplier and put you in the program.
Okay, so it will take a little longer than normal, or?
You should get, if you notified us right away, you should get into the same initial batch. I mean, at most you'd maybe miss a month.
I was initially skeptical about switching this energy thing, and I guess everybody was getting Constellation Energy and all those pamphlets in the mail. But then I was approached by one of my friends who was Ambit Energy consultant, and every time they sign up a customer, there's an incentive for them. So I guess that's the reason you are in a business too. You will be signing up thousands into one program, and of course there will be some incentive. Of course that's why you are in a business. It's nothing wrong. I think it's probably good for the township and for everybody if you can get it at a cheaper rate. But since he signs up 1 or 2 or 5 or 20 customers, that's little incentive. In this, when you sign up thousands, does township or us get any better rate? In other words, is your rate would be cheaper than there's, I think, 40 or 50, company out there right now, third party. So can you say that your rate would be cheaper than their rate?
I would say over the term of the contract, I would say almost certainly. Now, could any supplier come in for a 2-month period and undercut the rate? Sure, of course. The difference in this program is it's an extended, again, fixed price, fixed term. And that's really hard to find in the marketplace, say a 2-year contract at a fixed price.
The reason I ask is because those guys signs up 1 or 2 customers or 20 customers, and they get their supplies becomes free if they sign up 15 customer. Ambit Energy Consultant, they get, if they sign up 15 customer, their supply portion is free. Technically speaking, a lot of energy, whatever, and they get incentives.
Sir, 30 seconds, sir.
So just trying to say, do we get any other incentive
Well, again, generally you get, with the whole town together, you're going to generally get a better price in the marketplace because you're bringing a lot of accounts to market at the same time. And the supplier doesn't have to spend tons of money on mailings and whatnot to get you.
Erica Rosenthal, 18 Farmstead Drive. The price depends on how many people. The price depends on how many people you get to take this advantage of this. Now you sit here and you say you're going to opt in all these people, and it looks like half are going to opt out. So how are you going to know what price you have?
Well, the price is the price. In other words, what happens is the suppliers, when they're bidding, they've been in this business a long time. So when they bid on a community energy aggregation program, through their past experience, they make estimates as to how many people are going to opt out. That's already in their price. So once the price is fixed, and if it offers a good savings versus the JCP&L tariff, we're done. So if 500 people opt out instead of 200, it doesn't affect the price. That's the supplier's risk.
But the initial price started with how many people are in.
Oh, sure. Right. What they're going to look at is what's the size of the town, how many residents are in the town,
how many don't have a third-party supply contract. So there's a pool of eligible customers, and each supplier will make its own internal estimate of how many folks, based on their experience in the business, are likely to opt out, and that's what they base their price on. If the opt-out rate is twice what they guessed, it's their problem. The price is fixed.
And after 6 to 18 months, then the price will really go up.
Well, it'll be
Because
rebid. It'll be rebid.
And I also resent having to opt out. I like to buy what I want, not get it and then have to say no.
Okay. I should probably interject here that if anyone's here tonight that doesn't want to wait and look for a letter in the mail months from now, Kenny over there, he's got a pad. He'll take your name and address now, and we'll make sure you're taken out at the beginning. So you have that option. We're not trying to force anybody here.
Hi, I'm Jeff Morris. I live at 15 Wood Drive here in Parsippany. I have a couple of questions. First, are we going to know before any of this goes into effect what the rate will be compared to JCP&L's rate? In other words, will we know, we're not getting a pig in a poke, there'll be some, you'll tell us how much we're saving.
Right.
Also, will we know month by month what the saving is when we start getting our bills? Somehow I can't picture JCP&L sending a bill, telling you that your rate is 5% or 10% less than what their rate is each month. So there's no real way of knowing that you're really saving anything. And finally, I'm a retired corporate counsel of a major corporation, and I've negotiated probably hundreds of consulting agreements over my lifetime. And usually, one thing you said caught my attention, and that is you have the beneficiary of the consulting agreement is the Township of Parsippany, but the supplier is paying you folks. Now, I'm not suggesting there's anything improper with that, but that's always something I tried to avoid doing, simply because it puts you in the position sort of as, the realtor selling a house. Who are you representing, really, the buyer or the seller? I'm just curious how that gets resolved.
Sure. The payment structure is set up pure and simple to be certain that the township is not going to incur any cost to run this program. It's all on us. And we get paid by the supplier at the end, and our fee is posted in the bid documents. There's no secret there. So that's really the reason that we do it. I mean, is that so the township doesn't incur any costs directly. So what was the other part of that question? The last question.
How do we know month by month whether our saving is better or worse than JCP&L?
So actually, believe it or not, JCP&L, as required by the BPU, does, when you're on a third-party supply contract, there's a line underneath that's basically called your price to compare. It says if you had been on BGS, which is their basic service, this is how much you would have paid this month for power. So actually, it is on the bill. And with regard to knowing what the price is, the notification letter goes out to everyone after the bid contract award is made, so all the information is in there. So you're not buying the pig in the poke, as you said. You're told this is the price, this is the comparison to the utility price, and you make the call. So that's all that information is out there.
Sir, the 3-minute term, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ray Gallup. I'm from Lake Hiawatha. I studied economics in college, and I remember the law of supply and demand, where you have a lot of competitors. The prices are low. When you have a monopoly, prices are regulated and high. Do you have enough energy suppliers out there where you can go from one supplier to another once the contract expires?
Once this contract expires?
Yeah, once, say for instance, you go in at a low bid with the best supplier that gives you the lowest price. Do you have enough suppliers out there that might come rushing in later on that you can have a contract with them to get a low price?
Oh, sure. And that's
that's one of the, I guess, the beauties of the opt-out without any penalties, that if 6 months in, someone out there is offering a better deal, you can jump off and grab it, you know.
Steve Kaplan, 83 Lawrence Road, Parsippany. Been there for 44 years, and I got to tell you, this thing has frosted me. I have said no, 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 no. And then I get a letter saying, welcome. Now I'm in. I'm here because I don't want to be in. I'm out.
Okay.
I'm begging these people, do not pass this resolution. Don't save me money. Keep your hands out of my pockets. I'm telling you, I can't afford it. Let me just say, the last time the administration saved me money was on a Field of Dreams, $12 million. I don't need that. We survived that. I'm telling you, don't save me money. That's a key point for me. I paid 25 cents to go over the George Washington Bridge. Now it goes up $1.02 every shot. I don't need government helping me. I don't need the Port Authority saving me money. I'll save it. I said no, I don't want to be in. I say no, don't put your hands, don't save me money. I can't afford it. Every politician in my 44 years has said to me, I'm going to reduce your taxes. By now, you would be paying me to live in Parsippany. Stop reducing my taxes and stop this ridiculousness.
It's a hard act to follow. My name is Elizabeth Mudis, and I live at 91 Wingate Road, and I have a third-party supplier. My concern is that currently, if you use JCP&L, they are, the state mandates that you use 9% green. It could be close to 10. Plus the supplier that I use is 20% above that. So I'm all about renewable energy, and you know, we only have one planet, so we'd like to pass it on to our children. If you are getting a third-party supplier, is there any green content? What resources are you using?
Well, I mean, it would be at least the renewable portfolio standard, which is actually about 13% now, but it goes up a little every year. It's certainly within the township's purview to require the supplier to include an extra renewable component if that was, you know, their desire and they felt like that's what the constituents wanted. Obviously, as you know, it comes at a somewhat of a premium. So
well,
that's...
Not always.
Well, there's some cost, it's more green power. How much is the issue?
It depends on your supplier, but my supplier is affordable.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying you still couldn't save money, but the price will be a little bit higher. I'm not saying it's going to be tons higher, and it may still be lower than the tariff. That's certainly possible. So that's certainly a policy issue for the township to decide whether they wanted to include an extra green component. It's certainly permitted under the rule, the BPU rules, and that's a policy call for, you know, for your township officials.
But you wouldn't lose the 9% that the state's already mandating, because a lot of third-party suppliers, they don't use any green.
Well, they have to. If they have to show to the state every year that they're meeting the state's renewable portfolio standard. If they don't, they're out of business.
Yeah.
They're required to every year submit their compliance filing, show where they got the power from. So that is a requirement. So the power, at the very least, will meet the RPS requirements. And then it's a decision for the township whether they wanted to require that suppliers put in an extra green component. That's permitted under the rules.
Would that be more?
It would certainly increase the price, but there are certainly there are green products you can design that don't have a big impact on the price. You'd still save a fair amount of money. I mean, those are all options on the table.
One other thing is, I notice on my JCP&L bill every month, the BCG, basic generation,
BGS,
or whatever, it fluctuates, so it's not always the same. It can go up tenths of a penny here and there. So when you're saying that you're going out, and for an 18-month period, you're going to have the same rate, it's not always the case.
Well,
So
it
how-
is. What happens with the utility rate, and we're really getting into the weeds here, is they have a fixed price that's set once a year. On a month-to-month basis, they have this thing called a reconciliation factor, which basically trues up what they thought they were going to collect and what they actually collected. There's a small difference, and it can fluctuate a tenth of a cent or two either way, sometimes positive, sometimes negative, around that fixed rate, but it's generally within that fixed rate. That's under utility accounting, under the rules for utilities on how they can recover their costs. The third-party supplier that we deal with, they don't have any of that. It's, give me a fixed price, this term,
Yeah.
done, no
No, I
change.
understand the fixed price
Yeah.
of the third party, but on your JCP&L size, whatever they were going to use may fluctuate.
It
It's not going
fluctuates-
to be the same.
It fluctuates, like I said, a tenth or
Yeah.
two either way, and I will tell you flat out that if the low bid on the contract were within only a couple tenths of a cent lower than the utility tariff, we probably wouldn't award the contract, because that's within that sort of fluctuation. You'd want it to be like, the ones we've done down in Ocean County, the price was a good, penny and a half below the tariff price. So you're way outside of that little bit of wiggle there.
Right, yeah, I just...
Okay,
like
ma'am,
the-
your time's up.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem, thank you.
My name is Judy Parry, and I live on Farmingdale Drive in Parsippany. So, Liz addressed some of the questions I was going to ask. One of them was the variable JCP&L rate. It is variable every month. It goes up and down. And the fixed rate you're discussing, it's going to be the same exact fixed rate for 12 months or 18 months?
Correct.
And what happens if the utility goes below that?
Well, again, as I said, we can see how much the fluctuation is. If the low bid is within that sort of, I'll call it a band of uncertainty, I wouldn't recommend we award the contract. So it's got to be
At least a
healthy-
penny and a half less.
or a penny. I mean, it's well beyond that couple tenths of a cent for sure.
Okay.
No question about it.
All right, now, when you go out for this bid and the price that they're going to give you, does that include the tax, or does the tax go on top of it?
We always ask for the bid price, incling sales and use tax.
Okay, because some of the third-party suppliers
Oh,
charge
yeah.
tax on top of it.
That's one of the games.
I know.
Yes, it is.
And I, again, am concerned, and the average usage you used was $120 to $180 a year, you said, in Plumstead and Toms River. Was that based on, did you average out how many kilowatt hours each home used?
Yeah, we basically get from the utility the aggregate usage in the town, and we divide by the number of customers to get
Okay.
the typical customer.
Okay,
So
'cause
some are going to be a little more, some a little less.
Yeah, because the third party I'm with could have gone a lot higher than that, but then if my usage goes down,
Correct.
naturally you don't save as much that month.
Right, so it's just based on the typical customer.
Okay. And the green content, again, is my concern. The one I'm with is 20% over the mandated 10% in New Jersey, and I think that's a good thing for all of us, for our future.
And that's certainly something the township could consider.
They should.
It's allowed
Instead of
within the
getting
rules.
all brown energy, they really should. JCP&L has been supplying all coal energy. Okay, that's it.
Hi, Deanna DeFrancis, 55 Memorial Road. I have a question more on the RFP itself. I'm sorry. The RFP itself. Typically when you go out and you get a bid, you are getting a bid for a certain amount of energy, and the company is responding on that. What if the amount that they are allocating turns out to be less? What happens if our allocated energy runs out? Do our lights go out?
No, I mean, there's nothing.
Do our rates go up?
Yeah, there's nothing physical. No on both counts. This is the physical delivery of power doesn't change. This is really the supplier going out in that wholesale market and wrapping up, financial deals to get the power. The physical aspects don't change at all. There's a grid operator that maintains
Right,
all that.
but they are getting a bid for a certain amount of energy, and they're basing their price on that amount. If they under-allocate or underestimate how much we're actually going to be using, do our rates go up because their rates have gone up?
Right, and the answer is no.
For the term?
That's a pretty standard term in like a commercial contract or even some municipal contracts where it's called a bandwidth, and if your usage goes outside of your historical by more than, say, 20%, the supplier can adjust the price. In a residential deal, in these contracts, there's no bandwidth provision. They take that risk. And of course, what they're going to do, and see, that's one of the beauties of a pool of, say, 20,000 customers, is each individual home could have anything going on, whether it's a new addition put on or someone loses a job and they downsize, whatever it is. But in a pool that large of 20,000 customers, typically there's not much. The variation's more, say, on weather and things like that if it's a really hot summer. And that's something the suppliers do when they go out and guarantee a fixed price. They weigh that risk and they price that into their product. They have a little bit of a risk premium there to account for the fact that they can't adjust their price if the volumes are different than what they thought.
Okay, and then in the opposite direction, if a lot of people opt out and the initial price is very high, they've purchased this electricity based on a certain volume, and that volume isn't met, do we get a kickback or no?
No, again, the price either way, right?
Okay.
So you're protected both ways. The whole point is that's all the risk that they have to take into account. This is a different product than your regular commercial contract where the risks are sort of allocated both ways. Here, it's all on the supplier. They do their best to estimate, based on their experience, how many folks are likely to opt out, and that's what they price, and they build in a risk premium again, and that's totally on them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Abe Gilman, 2 Ulysses Street, Parsippany. What if there's a malfunction of the supplier's equipment? How does JCP&L get involved?
The question was if there was a malfunction of the supplier's equipment, how does JCP&L get involved? I guess in short, I would say the supplier doesn't have any equipment. The suppliers are not, the retail suppliers that we're dealing with are not power plant owners, and they're not operating the distribution system. The distribution system is still run by JCP&L. The high power tension grid is still run by the grid operator that's responsible for reliability in the whole region. And power plant owners are responsible for their power plants. And the suppliers are simply going out in the wholesale market and putting together a portfolio of supply. It's a financial contract is what it is. And the grid operator is still maintaining the reliability of the grid just like they did before. It doesn't, on the physical and electrical side, nothing changes here. It's really a contractual deal is what it is.
So if a generator goes out, there's no problem?
No, the grid operator now, no matter who your supplier is, right now it's from JCP&L, but they get their power from a wholesaler who gets it from another wholesaler who gets it from generators. That doesn't change. And there's the grid operator, if you've heard of PJM, they run the regional grid. They have all these rules, and what they do is they account for things like that. They're called unexpected forced outages of power plants. They make sure that they have other plants spinning, ready to go. They have a reserve margin. All of that is in the reliability rules, which transcends any one supplier. The whole power grid, every generator on it is taking orders from this grid operator, and they always have reserves available, enough to meet, instantaneous power plant outages at one power plant, 'cause it does happen. Transmission line outages, they always have contingencies, so there's other power plants ready to step in. And that has nothing to do with this deal. That goes on no matter who you're buying your power
Is it
from.
feasible that JCP&L has more suppliers or more grid operators or more sources than some of the other?
It's all the same power grid. It's all the same suppliers. Everyone's out there putting it together. Now, JCP&L obtains their power in the wholesale market under different rules, which the state mandates, which have resulted in their prices being somewhat higher than what the market is because of the way they're forced to buy their power. But it's all the same pool of suppliers and generators. It's one power grid operator, and the power grid operator doesn't care who the retail suppliers are. It doesn't affect how they operate the grid.
If I were to opt out and I decide to opt in after 3 months, is that a possibility?
Yeah, you can. What we typically do is we ask the supplier periodically to ask JCP&L, okay, are there more customers that have come off third-party suppliers or moved into the town new, et cetera. So once you drop your supplier, you could get picked up in a later round of, okay, here's a new batch of new customers that don't have third-party supply contracts.
How would you do that?
How do we do that? Periodically, the supplier will go back to the utility and say, okay, is there another, give us the current count of, call them non-third-party supplier contracts, and then we go through that same process of getting a price and then taking it, and then doing the opt-out process.
Sir, your time's up, sir.
Just one more question.
Sir, your time's up, sir. We have other people waiting.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I guess my question relates to, you mentioned about the fixed pricing, and I know, if I'm clear, that JCP&L offers a peak and non-peak pricing plan. So they do offer a plan that if you use usage in the night hours, there's a cheaper rate than if you use during the day hours. So I guess overall, I'm understanding this process as being a program that is going to have the average consumer price go down based on a certain amount of usage. But that doesn't guarantee that every consumer will have a lower monthly bill.
The vast majority of customers are on what's called an RS tariff, which really just has one rate in the winter. In the summer, it has one rate for the first 600 kilowatt hours and another, but it's pretty flat. There's a small percentage of customers that have, as you said, a time of use meter, so they measure it by on and off peak. And so the rate is a lot lower overnight than it is during the day, et cetera. So for those customers, what we do is, and if you go through the process of looking at sort of the load curve of a customer, the rate at night may be 6 cents, the rate in the peak may be 16 cents or something. The average rate turns out to be somewhere between 10 and 11 cents. It's the same issue where we're looking at enough clearance between, sort of the average utility price and the bid price that, some customers that use a little bit more that are on that time of use rate, and again, it's a pretty small percentage. It's usually less than 5% of all the customers. Your average customer may be, say, 10.5 cents on average. If they use a lot more off-peak, they may be down to 10 or 9.9, 9.8. Again, we're looking for a price that's well below an average and within that sort of variation of customers.
No, I mean, I understand the point. My question is, I just want people to be clear that you're saying that the rates are going to be lower, and they're going to actually put on JCP&L and say what your rate would have been versus that. But you're not really saying, you're saying the average user will probably have a lower bill, but every user will not have a 100% lower bill.
Well, again, I want to be clear now. The vast majority of customers are under this RS tariff, and really the only main distinction is in the summer, the first 600 kilowatt hours, and then over 600. The winter rate is flat. And the difference in the summer-winter rates isn't all that much. Some customers may use more in the summer and put more usage in that second higher price, so their average price may be higher. What I'm saying is, and we did this in the bids we've done so far, is the winning bid price is lower than that first lower block. Even in the summer, it's lower than any of the two blocks, lower than the block in the winter. So we do our calculations on how much savings based on the average customer, but we look at the bid results to make sure that everyone falls below that threshold.
Well, in the essence of time, my question would be is that if you're guaranteeing on this RFP process that the consumer's bill is going to be lower, then I would understand, or at least I would expect, that if my bill wasn't lower than the JCP&L rate, why doesn't this third-party provider absorb that difference?
Well, the third-party supplier is going out in the marketplace.
No, I understand.
And they're guaranteeing, and they're going out and locking up a price. And
Sir, 30
it's our
seconds.
job to make sure it's below the tariff.
No,
That's our job.
But I guess my last point is just that you're not guaranteeing that every bill is going to be less than that. It's based on the average user consumption. So if I'm a low consumption user, I'm not going to get the amount of savings that you're anticipating over the aggregate use of the township.
Everyone's going to save. The percentage may change, may vary a little bit.
Hi, excuse me, I'm Margaret Breen, 71 Clairview Road, Rainbow Lake, Stenville. And I really need an explanation. I did the printout of what was on the computer, and on page 4, this is part of how the program is going to benefit the community. It's number 2. It says this: second, the program gives the community more information and control over the supply and usage of energy in their households. Now, in the past, I was always in control of that. If my electric bill was too high, then I was more cognizant of when the light bulbs were on, etc. But now the community is going to be in control of the usage. So my question, I guess, is who is the community that's going to be making the mandates? Are we going to be told that, like this summer when we had this terrible humidity? Yeah, that's what I mean, that the air conditioners have to go off from 11 to 1? Is that what that means?
Oh, no. That's a program where I think the utility puts this switch on your air conditioner and can cycle your air conditioner on and off. No. I think that probably could have been worded better. It doesn't mean anything like that.
Right.
It really doesn't.
Okay. Well, once again, I guess I feel the same way about the government. I just don't want them in my private life. It's happening on a national level and here, and I just don't want
Okay.
it.
And again, if you want to see Mr. Esser and give him.
I already did.
There you go. Okay.
Hi, Joe Calabrese on Elmwood Drive. Just a quick question. With JCP&L losing all these accounts, they're going to lose some money. So are they then going to raise the delivery charge in order to make up the difference?
Yeah, it's a good question. JCP&L, as I said earlier, they no longer own their own power plants. They go out in the wholesale market under BPU rules, buy the power. If they buy it for 9 cents, they sell it at 9 cents. They don't mark it up. They don't, and that was set up specifically 10 years ago when the whole industry was restructured. It was specifically done so that the utility would not have a financial disincentive to keep people from switching. So the answer is they could care less. They don't make any money on it. They don't care. They make their money on the wires. Yep.
Hi, my name is Yvette Serban, originally 13 Chesapeake Avenue, where the flood hit us really hard. Now I just got the keys for a rental property on 6 Farron Drive. That's going to be my new home. I have a question. Do you know Ambit and all these other companies that provide the same service that you're trying to sell to us here?
I know of many suppliers in the marketplace. I'm not intimately familiar with all of them, but I know of them. And
Can you guarantee that the rate that you are giving us is going to be lower than the one that those companies offer?
I will say this, because again, there's so many different types of
Can you guarantee yes or no?
Well, I would say this, for a similar term of contract, I would say I would be hard pressed to think that a supplier serving individual customers could beat a big pool. Now, like I said earlier, if we get a fixed price for 2 years, could someone come in for, say, 2 really low period months and beat it?
My time is running, sorry.
Yeah, it's fine.
My point is, and I just found out about this maybe a day and a half ago, because I have too many things on my plate. But why are we paying you to make a decision that we can make on our own if you cannot guarantee that your rate that you're getting for us is going to be lower than the company out there that we don't have to pay them to give us that service? Why are you getting paid to make a decision that we can make on our own instead of the township hiring you, paying you? I'm not sure who's going to pay your fees, but instead of you coming into this decision, why don't just the township make flyers or some kind of during event, make people aware that there is other companies offering lower rate than JCP&L? Because this over here is kind of like a waste of time if that could have been done that way instead of you or somebody else coming and making a decision that we can make on our own, unless you can guarantee that the rate is going to be lower than those suppliers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, that's fine.
George Gutblatt, Ridgewood Avenue, Lake Hiawatha. Simple question. JCP&L loses 20,000 customers in a town out of 25,000, let's say. Why should they put us on any priority list if another Sandy comes along?
Again, JCP&L makes all their money on the delivery piece, so
Right.
It doesn't matter who the supplier is. They don't care.
Well, they're going to have to raise their price because...
They don't lose any money. They don't lose any money because of this.
Audience.
Jersey Central Power and Light makes all their profit in their delivery rate that's regulated by the BPU. The supply, if customers don't have a third-party supplier, they take power from JCP&L. JCP&L sells it at the same price they go out in the wholesale market at. They don't make any money on it. So
why does JCP&L have to pay more on the wholesale market than these suppliers that you are so familiar with?
because of the way that the BPU requires that they buy the power in these 3-year.
So it doesn't require these other people to buy it the same way?
No, in the
So
market.
the rules are not the same for your folks as for my folks?
JCP&L is required by the BPU to specifically buy power in a specific way. We have the freedom to buy power in a way under contract terms that maximize the savings or minimize the price. JCP&L
Why
doesn't
don't you
it.
have to play by the same rules? What gives you that right to play by different rules?
JCP&L has power supply that they've bought at a certain price. The legislature has given towns the ability to go out and try to beat the price. I mean, it's just really that simple.
It seems that there are two sets of rules, one for JCP&L and PSE&G and Atlantic City Power. That's one set of rules, and one set of rules for anyone else who wants to be in the market.
That's accurate.
Well, that's ridiculous.
That's the market.
There are certain things that should be monopolies, and the power company should be one of them.
Well,
I know that's a radical statement.
Well, I mean, the legislature,
I know the legislature.
15 years ago decided that competition was better and opened it up. I mean,
well, I'm not sure that that's always the case.
Well, I mean, that's what they did.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Griffey, you had a question?
Just a quick question. It seems to me that the large majority of people here would rather opt in rather than having to opt out. I know you stated that there's a 30-day period where people can opt out. Is there any way possible to have a 30-day period where people could opt in?
Well, I mean, basically, that type of program has been tried and failed. So, I mean, an opt-in program is just, it's not feasible under this. This kind of program doesn't work under that kind of structure.
What happens when new construction, new homeowners come in? Do they go right to your plan? They
No,
go to
this-
JCP&L, they get the 30-day opt-in, out?
Same process, right? Yeah, same process.
And same thing with people moving in and moving out?
Correct. Anyone who moves out, once your account is terminated, you're done, right? Your
Right.
account's over. The new folks that move into the home, their new account, they're not enrolled. They start with JCP&L, and then you go from there. They can get a third-party supplier, or we can go through a process periodically of asking JCP&L.
The open session's closed, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or they could be, included in a future opt-out enrollment process.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Just a quick question, because you can see a lot of the residents concerned about the opt-in and the opt-out. The the opt-out, was that passed by legislation? I mean, if
The law actually has been passed twice. First, it was passed with an opt-in, and that went for about 4 or 5 years, and there wasn't one successful program. It just, as I said, it just doesn't work in the marketplace. And on a large scale, obviously individual customers can sign up, but this kind of aggregation didn't work, and so the legislation was changed by the legislature to go to opt-out, because they said if there's going to be community aggregation, this is really the only model that's going to work.
So basically what you're saying is this is the only way it can be done, because legislation passed a law saying that you can only have an opt-out program.
Right. This is the only way this kind of program can be done by legislation, and that legislation was done for the reason that that's the only way it will be viable in the marketplace.
Okay. Just wanted to know if it was legislation.
Yep.
Now, you're saying state legislation, correct?
Correct.
All right.
Okay, sir, you could be the last one. Come on up if you have a question.
I've had two...
Sir, name and address, please, for the record.
John Lepore, 78 Moraine Road. I've had two third-party suppliers. I'm going to opt out of this one, too. I found that aside from teaser rates, within 3 or 4 months, the rates are almost slightly below what JP&L is. So I'm going to look for another third party. My questions, 2 questions. One, how long before this goes into effect if it is implemented?
Well, I mean, the tentative schedule, obviously it's subject to final approval, would have the bid going out in late September, the award of contract in mid-October. So then the opt-out process would start around the end of October through, say, the end of November. So the letters would go out around the end of October.
This year or a year from now?
No, of this year.
Oh,
yeah.
because I was going into another third party, but they wanted a year contract, and I was a little leery of that. The other thing is, I use between 28,000 and 30,000 kilowatt hours a year.
Wow.
Now, am I going to realize a significant saving from that?
You'd save more dollars. I mean, so 10% on a bill that's, $800 is more money than 10% on a monthly bill of, 100 or 200, right? So you would save more dollars for sure.
Yeah, not by choice, but I have an all-electric home, and that's the
okay.
problem.
Yeah. My condolences.
Okay, we're done. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Ordinances, second reading, public hearings, everything set for next meeting?
Yes, Council President.
Okay, status of adopted ordinances, 2013:18, :19, :20, :22 were adopted 7/16/2013. Mayor's action for those four, July 18, 2013. The effective date for 2013:18, August 12, 2013. The effective date for 2013:19, :20, :22, 8/7/2013. 2013:21 was rescinded by Resolution R 2013-152 on July 16, 2013. Discussions, reminders, scheduled meeting. August 20th, 2013, 7:30 p.m., regular meeting, public invited, public participation. That'll also be at Parsippany Hills High School. September 10th, 2013, also at Parsippany Hills High School, 7:30 p.m. Agenda meeting, public invited, public participation. Minutes for approval, 2/5/2013 agenda meeting, 2/5/2013 closed session meeting, 2/12/2013 closed session meeting. Administration, bids taken, July 11, 2013, 11 a.m., one new 20-yard trash compactor for Knoll West. July 24, 2013, 11 a.m., design purchase of electrical consumption, optimizing equipment for Township Parsippany-Troy Hills wastewater treatment plant. To be taken, July 31st, 2013, 11 a.m., repainting of the Lackawanna elevated water storage tank. August 7, 2013, 10 a.m., one new 2014 International 7400 SFA 4x2 dump truck, approved equivalent for water department. August 7, 2013, 11 a.m., reconstructed curb sidewalks at various locations, 2013. August 15, 2013, 11 a.m., three new 2014 Western Star 4700 setback axle garage trucks with 29 cubic yard heavy-duty high compaction rear loading, leacher, packer bodies are approved equivalent.
Council President?
Yes.
Would like to request that the bids that will be taken between now and August 20th be put on the consent agenda if the bids come in all right?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Council President, on the bids to be taken with the Lackawanna storage tank, I believe that's already passed. And
Yes, that's been taken, and we're recommending award.
Okay. Is there anything that has to be done? I'm not sure how this works, because I remember a certain amount of money was budgeted for the painting, and it looks like the low bid amount came in much higher than what the actual budgeted amount was.
We have other sources to make up the difference.
Okay. And as far as bids, Jasmine, last week Councilman DiPiero mentioned about replacing the tanker over for the sewer department. Has at the last meeting that still hasn't been done. Has that been done to date now?
That's part of the bond ordinance, the 2013 bond ordinance.
Okay, because in the budget that was approved a few months ago, it says that the tanker replacement was to be fully funded in cash from the sewer department.
The way that the bond council wrote up the ordinance, that's the amount that went into the down payment. So the amount for for the tanker, and I can't remember what other item in the budget was shown as fully funded. All of those ended up being part of the down payment.
Okay, but it did say, just so I'm right, though, in the budget that was approved, it did say that it was going to be fully funded for the tanker replacement.
That's correct.
So it can be done, it can be purchased right now if
I don't, I'd have to ask the auditor or the bond counsel, but I'm not, I think you still need the capital ordinance.
Okay, can we check on that?
Yes?
Thanks.
Okay, ready? Okay, ordinances. I'll turn the first one over to Mr. Nelson. Page 5, Tom. Yeah.
Okay. Ordinances. An ordinance if the township...
No, this was the one that you wanted to bring up for discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Over the phone.
Yes.
You don't have to read it.
Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
On first reading, at the next meeting, we're going to be introducing, excuse me, property, and introducing an ordinance that where the township will be purchasing 360 Troy Road, Block 730, Lot 3. We talked about it a little bit at the last council meeting. Before this ordinance is introduced, has the township appraised the land? Gotten any appraisals for it?
Yeah.
Yes? No? Maybe?
No, there was no appraisal.
Okay, so I guess my follow-up question would be, what was that purchase price based on? Well, if you can't answer that.
Yeah.
My understanding was that the Open Space Committee recommended this a few years ago. I looked, I don't see it on the list of recommended properties to be purchased. I know at the last meeting, I indicated that I would be opposed to it, and I'm not going to put words in my mouth and Mr. DiPiero's mouth, but I believe he indicated the same thing. Being that Councilman Ferrara won't be here at the next meeting, it's pretty fair to say that this ordinance went past first reading, so I'd just like to make a motion just to table it at this point.
Just let me read the minutes, if you don't mind, Councilman Nelson, of the open space. I think this is the minutes of that time. I introduced Barbara Heskins Davis of the Land Conservancy of New Jersey, and I'm just going to read into it because I can't quite remember. It's about the interest in the Ruth Pace property. She explained how the Ruth Pace approached the Land Conservancy of New Jersey to preserve the land at the rear of her property. It backs up to what is used to be Smithfield by Route 80. Gabe Yaccarino and Barbara Davis walked the property. Ruth Pace stated that she would like to keep the house. I just got to continue to read it. And Barbara Davis passed out a map to members of the committee displaying the property. The configuration with the cul-de-sac is unrealistic. You know, this is what I'm reading. The configuration that displays the flag lot has realistic development potential. The property now, I can get you so it says here, the property is assessed at $217,000. And Ms. Pace would be willing to see 2.2 acres for $100,000. And the Land Conservancy encouraged the committee to accept the offer. That was from the minutes of that meeting. Huh? I don't have the date on it.
This is an Open Space Committee meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
It was the May 12th of 2011 meeting,
Okay.
which was unanimously approved.
Okay.
Just so you know, those lots are buildable lots.
Right.
So,
Okay. The open space laws say that when the Open Space Committee makes a recommendation to purchase property, they're supposed to submit that to the council within 45 days of voting on purchasing property. Has the council Was the council ever notified within those 45 days? Because the township code says that the township council shall within 40 days either approve, disapprove, or modify the list as submitted and state the amount of funds that the council shall make available for this acquisition. Did that go on in 2011?
I don't quite remember.
I think, if I may, Councilman, the council's not obligated to expend the funds. There's a sort of a system of communication and recommendation set up in the ordinance between the Open Space Committee and the governing body. I mean, the governing body's certainly not required to expend monies recommended by the Open Space Committee. I think the point was simply that there was a recommendation at one point in time in May of 2011 to acquire the property, but I don't think it's, you know, there's nothing that the Open Space Committee does is binding.
Right. I think your words were last year that the Open Space Committee is advisory only, and that the council can take it or leave it on.
Legally, that's correct.
Okay. So, Mr. Council President, based on the fact that there's never been an appraisal done on this property, the property is basically Mrs. Pace's backyard that butts against Route 80. I just can't see any way that I can support purchasing this land. If the township is afraid that she was subdivided into 2 lots, I wouldn't be opposed to issuing a conservation easement for a fraction of the cost of buying it, but for the town to purchase this backyard that goes against Route 80, I just can't see any good reason why we should be doing this. So I'd just like to make a motion to table it and pull it off. First
May I
reading.
speak before you make that motion?
I'm sorry?
He just wants to speak before.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. DiPiero?
Yeah, well, I'm on the Open Space Committee. I've been on it for many, many years, and I voted for it in 2011. But since 2011, you know, there's a right time and a wrong time to do things. So we've had 2 horrific storms. We've had 480 homes damaged, some of them uninhabitable still, in Lake Hiawatha. We have businesses all over town that are filing tax appeals because their income is down. We have the garden apartments all filing tax appeals. What seemed like a good idea to me in 2011 does not seem like a good idea to me now at this point in time. So even though I voted for this over 2 years ago, I do not support it at this point in time.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Nelson to table ordinance on 360 Troy Road.
Second it.
Motion by Mr. Nelson, second by Mr. Karifi. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes, 360 Troy Road tabled. Okay, discussion, Jasmine?
On the next ordinance?
No.
Oh.
On the police.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yes, the PBA and the SOA have again approached the township administration requesting that the off-duty rates be increased. The last time they were increased, I believe, was in 2006 or 2007. And the PBA did survey other towns, particularly surrounding towns, to determine what the rates were in those towns. I provided a spreadsheet to the council on those rates. I also provided the backup, whether it was an email or an ordinance or an application from the other towns, which show what the rates are. The PBA is requesting that the regular rate be increased from $50 to $65, and that in 2014 it be increased to $75. 2015, I'm sorry. They're asking that the premium rate, which is overtime, any hours in excess of 8 hours, and holidays that be increased from $75 to to $85. The memo that I sent to you said $97.50. The PBA is now requesting that be increased to $85 and then to $97.50 in 2015. They're also recommending a discounted rate for entities that contract for a minimum number of hours over a 6-month period. And the administration is requesting that the admin fee be increased from $5 an hour to $10 an hour. In addition, there's a recommendation that the traffic control ordinance be amended to require an off-duty officer for certain types of road work in certain types of roads and certain circumstances. We do have representatives. We have the president of the PBA and the SOA here to answer any questions, and there are obviously members of the PBA and SOA here.
I have a question for the administration. Why aren't these increases discussed during negotiations, rather than throw them at us now in the middle of at the end of negotiations?
I don't think that would be in contract.
This is not something I would go and...
With the sheriff's office, I got to tell you, it's separate. It's not in the contract either. It's a separate
Right,
negotiation.
definitely, it's an ordinance.
In some towns, it is part of the contract, the collective bargaining contract. In other towns, it's just completely separate, but it is required that it be negotiated.
I'd rather see it negotiated during the contracts.
George, you want to come up just so I have a few questions? We had it. They sent us off. They sent us a whole thing all week. It was on your computer all week.
Good evening, Council.
How are you?
All right.
Quick question. The premium rate, 85, that's throughout until 2015, the 85?
Correct.
Okay, and the premium rate's based on anything over 8 hours?
Anything over 8 hours,
So if you have a
correct.
10-hour job, the first 8 hours are at your normal rate?
Is our normal
The
rate.
last 2 are at 85?
That is correct.
Okay.
And a lot of, if you look through that packet there, Mountville has the same thing too. Anything over 8 hours is time and a half. And then they go beyond that on holidays and national holidays are 2.5 times.
Any questions?
Jasmine, you said that this rate's been in effect for the last 6 or 7 years. It hasn't changed?
Yes?
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was, does anyone remember?
2007.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Jasmine, do you have the numbers before, with you, what the numbers were beforehand? It would be 65. Regular rate was?
Yeah, the regular rate, if you look on the memo, or even on the spreadsheet on the bottom, it shows the current rates. On the spreadsheet,
We don't
have it.
None of us have that in our packets.
that was sent to you, sorry.
That was an email.
I looked at it on the computer.
Oh, no, yeah.
I just
I'm
wanted-
sorry.
It was sent to you by, it was
Okay.
emailed to you.
Yeah, we were...
No, that's what I was just asking. I did
All
look
right.
at everything on the computer.
The regular rate was $50.
Okay.
The premium rate was $75.
Okay, and discounted, that's new, or?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for PBA, or?
I would still like to see this moved into negotiations, do it all at one time.
Councilman, a lot of the towns, it's all done by ordinance as fees. the majority of towns, a lot of the contracts.
There are some towns
Separate.
there are some towns that don't do it that way. I prefer to mix it in.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, there is a, I don't know if Jasmine advised you, council members, that there is a $5 admin fee that is getting added on into this, which is going to be a surplus for the town. Are you guys aware of that?
Yes.
Yeah, but we're negotiating salaries, pensions, and benefits, okay? It just seems to me that there's nothing there that you offer us. It's always us offering more. The costs go up, whether you want the same benefits, costs go up, we absorb that. It's been going on like that. But it just seems to me that these are increases in your income that we don't get a chance to negotiate with with the whole package. And it just seems to me we should be putting it all together and come out with one whole package that benefits all of us, not just the PBA.
I understand your concerns, but the way that it's set up, it's an ordinance, it's not contractual.
See, I'm not trying to take anything away from you. I just would like to see the process change. Not that I want to take something away from you.
Yeah, like I said before, this isn't contractual where I am either. This is a total separate thing, freeholders resolution.
That could be changed.
And also, like ours, we have increases put in per year. We do a 3-year contract, and each year we're increased.
Well, it's been done by ordinance, I don't know how many years now, and I think it should stay that way right now, by ordinance. The ordinance is, you either got to make a decision, gentlemen, either you want to introduce the ordinance or you don't want to introduce the ordinance.
Take a roll call vote.
The roll call, what's the roll call for? Okay, so the roll call would be a voice vote as to whether or not to place the ordinance on the agenda for the next council meeting for consideration for introduction. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you're not voting to introduce the ordinance tonight. You're just voting to put it on the agenda for consideration for introduction at the next meeting. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep.
All right, that clarify it for you? I think Nancy. Okay.
And can I just clarify that the premium rate that's currently being requested is not the $97.50, but $85?
Correct.
Yes, that is correct.
Can I clarify one thing? And you want me to negotiate it in the police contract. How do I negotiate a administrative fee? When you think about it, I got to ask the PBA and SWA president, well, can I have the administration fee to be increased? I think it belongs with the council on this ordinance because it's been that way. But that's up to you, gentlemen.
I make a motion for consideration.
We're going to take a roll call. Anyone, any other questions? All right, motion by Mr. Farrar.
Let's just clarify what this motion is. This is just to
Introduce.
No. The motion is not to introduce.
It's not to introduce.
The motion is not to introduce. The motion would be simply to put the ordinance, and perhaps it's better to do this by a straw poll, so the formality doesn't become confusing. The ordinance would not be the vote would not be to introduce the ordinance. The vote would simply be to put the ordinance on the agenda for the next council meeting, the regular council meeting, which is August 20th, for consideration for introduction at that time. So my advice, Yancey, would be to take a straw poll so that the formality of the roll call is not confused with introduction of the ordinance.
We're good.
Mr. Karifi.
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
I'll go along with it for now, but I still would like to see the process change at some point in the future.
Mr. Ferrara.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes, but we're just taking a poll here to see if we're going to take a poll next time.
No.
If it's on the agenda for introduction.
No. One more time. This is the issue to be decided now is simply whether or not to put this ordinance on the agenda at the next council meeting, at which time the council will consider introducing the ordinance. That's all you're doing right now. You're not voting to introduce the ordinance. You're not voting for the ordinance.
We're having a little straw poll here to see if we'll talk about it some more at the next meeting.
Not talk about it at the next meeting, Mr. Nelson.
No, we're not
put it on for
next meeting. Yes.
for consideration for introduction at the next meeting, not to talk about it at the next meeting. At the next meeting, you would be asked to cast a vote as to whether or not you would vote yes or no to introduce the ordinance. That would be at the next meeting. That's what you're talking about now.
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes. Thank you.
Hey, Council
Sorry,
Mayor.
Mr.
Thank
Stanton? I just need your name for the record.
George with a G, last name Simpedes, T as in Tom, S-I-M-P-E-D-E-S.
Thank you.
Okay, resolutions, everything set, Jasmine?
Yes.
Okay, engineer report, August 2013, Mr. Creepy.
Engineering report for August 2013. All are no change with the exception of the last one, which is New Jersey Transit bus stops. New Jersey Transit is proposing to relocate a bus stop on westbound Route 46 from the far side of the Lackawanna Avenue intersection to the near side. This office has no objection to the proposed relocation. The Township Council will need to adopt a resolution agreeing to the bus stop at this new location.
Can I just interject? There's also a request to move the bus stop on 46 and Baldwin Road.
Where?
Where are we moving it?
Further to the St. Peter's side of 46.
They're proposing to move it to the island because you have the drugstore now in the Baldwin Shopping Center. And they now have a new entrance into the new shopping center from Route 46. They're afraid if a bus stops, this just came before the planning board, this is why I know this. Where the existing bus stop is, people could be turning into the shopping center and people, right where the bus is, the bus could take off and not see someone cutting in front of them. So the DOT approved our recommendation that we move the bus stop to the island, away from that entrance to Baldwin Road.
Is there a crosswalk to cross 46 over there?
Yeah, there's a crosswalk there.
Okay, from the island?
From the island in both directions, across Route 46 and across Baldwin Road.
Okay, I'm in favor of adopting a resolution for both.
Okay, so we'll put them on for next
Okay,
week?
thank you. Yep, 2 weeks.
Yes, on the 20th.
Yes. Okay, Chief Financial Officer? Do you want to?
That's just
That's
a
for
resolution
next-
for a
okay.
grant.
Applications, resolution approving a new limousine license for Sammy Limo Services LLC. Resolution of Township Council, Township Parsippany-Troy Hills, authorizing person-to-person transfer. Plenary retail consumption license for Parsippany BWW LLC. Resolution of Township Council, Township Parsippany-Troy Hills, authorize person-to-person transfer. Plenary retail distribution license for Wine Am4 Wines and Liquors LLC.
Mr. Stanton, just one quick correction. The resolution for BWW will be a person-to-person and place-to-place transfer.
Okay. For next week. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to open this up to the public.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Creepy. Second. Second by Mr. Farrar. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes, at this time, I'll open it up to the public. You'll be given 5 minutes to speak on any topic. Please come up, sign your name.
Good evening. My name is Pat Farnham. I live on 23 Lakeside Drive. I sent a letter last week to Council President Stanton and the Mayor regarding the revitalization of Manor Lake. Specifically, what we're looking to do is to get this lake dredged, get the dam repaired on the lake, as well as removing some of the trees that are still there from Sandy, and if feasible, a silt basin put in so that it will maintain this lake. I sent that letter as a request to hopefully get this on the agenda for the town council. I'm here appearing in person now because the town clerk told me that's what I had to do. There's been a considerable amount of discussion with regards to this lake over about the last couple of years. Many township authorities have been discussed and talked to about how this can get done, to which nothing's really happened. It's a shame that this resource is really going to be going to waste. I'd like to see the town jump into the pool, so to speak, and save this resource. To hopefully maybe give you a little more history on this, I'd like to ask Jan Chambers, who is a resident on the lake as well, give you a little history about what has happened, who we've talked to, and what's happened with the, or not happened anyway, in getting this whole project underway. By the way, this has happened once before. We did get it done in 1990 or 1989, but no silt basin was put in, so we're in the same ball of wax that we were in before. It's a shame to have this lake die.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Janet Chambers. I bought my house in 2008. It was a one-owner, believe
Your
it or
address,
not.
ma'am?
I'm sorry?
Your address for the record, please.
19 Lakeside Drive, lakefront to Manor Lake. And I bought a one-owner 1929 house. I'm the sole owner, and I've totally fixed up the inside and outside. I intended to live on a peaceful little lake. Unfortunately, during the closing, the lake started looking bad, and the previous town engineer told me and my realtor that the dam was going to be fixed, the lake was going to be dredged, and a silt basin added. Unfortunately, I never saw anything happen, so in 2009 I started walking the neighborhood. I got everybody to come and visit you all and ask for help. My next door neighbor, who is in her 80s, and I made regular visits to the present town engineer, and we were told every time that we haven't heard from the DEP. Well, I started wondering why we were hearing the same thing, and to me it seemed like a story. So finally I called the DEP and I talked to an engineer, Darren Schaefer, and he told me that the engineering firm that was hired by the township had gone out of business, in fact, and nothing was happening whatsoever. Since that time, as you probably know, it's been a new engineering firm was hired, and let's see, a new engineering firm was hired. They've done the measurements, and I've talked to Sarah Hatala, who is the engineer who's in charge of our project. 2 weeks ago, we were number 19, and I asked her, when will we be number 1? And she said a couple of months. But she said, Janet, there's no reason that the town cannot dredge the lake now. And I was really shocked to hear that, and I said, well, how can we get that accomplished? And she said, it's a very simple permit. They just have to ask, they just have to request it. And so what I'm asking on behalf of all of us around Manor Lake is that you dredge the lake now. We need it. If any of you saw the pictures that Mr. Farnan sent, July 22nd, the pictures were taken in back of my home, and the lake is totally dried up. A really disgusting mess. And I don't know how many of you know this, but this problem is over 25 years old. So we really need your help. It would really help us if you could dredge the lake now. Sarah Hatala also told me that the township is under orders to do some emergency remedial work at the dam because there's so much erosion over 25 years. So the last thing we knew about that is she said the township was taking bids on that, but I don't know where that stands. But honestly, I poured my money and my heart and my own work into my home. And I'm so disgusted with the nothing that's happened that a few months ago I tried to sell my house. I can't sell my house because the township has devalued the neighborhood and my home because of this lake situation. And it's a real shame because this is a beautiful lake when it looks nice. It's a real asset to the town. I don't understand why you've treated this neighborhood so badly. And on top of that, a couple years ago, you were speaking about open space money earlier. Inexplicably dredged at Manor Park, a block away, we all got excited. We thought maybe you were going to actually do something. And what that did at the time was to pretty much drain the lake then. That's really all I have to say, but we really, really need your help now. It's been way too long. The buck has just been passed one administration to another, and it's really time it stops.
Jasmine. Who owns the lake? Can we give permission to?
I'll talk to Justin about the dredging.
Is that the lake that we were talking about removing the dam?
No, that was,
That was,
No, that's
Mirror.
that's
Mirror and
Pond.
Forge.
Okay.
It's right by Intervale School and down the street from Manor Park. But, you know, it's just not...
Ma'am, your time's up. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, who does own the lake? They're going to talk to Justin about who owns it?
No, I'm sorry.
Who owns the lake is a good question.
I don't know if we own it. I don't know if we own the lake.
I think so.
Is there an association?
Whoa. Mary Przicki, 273 Marcella Road. I have a question. I don't know how, but my brain maybe wasn't working tonight. Sometimes it doesn't. And when under ordinances, when we got to 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one, there was, did you guys discuss anything about this? What exactly is that one? Is that one water view?
Are you talking about the ones that are already approved?
No.
These are on the agenda.
You talked about the one buying 360 Troy Road, and then you talked about the police.
You're on page 5?
I'm on page 5, yeah. But right above discussion, an ordinance amending, chapter 430, zoning of revised general ordinance. Are you doing that next week, a next public hearing, or what are you, why is that there?
Yeah, that's water view.
Yes.
Oh, that's up for a vote at our next meeting.
Okay, and that's water view, is that what it is?
That's it.
And it's going to be, is that going to be introduced on first reading then?
That's the introduction at first reading. yeah.
Okay, and then it'll be duly advertised 14 days prior to in the paper?
The advertising, Ms. Pizzic, all of the legal requirements for the ordinance will be followed. There is no requirement to advertise prior to introduction, but it will be advertised in accordance with the law, as all ordinances are after introduction.
Will it be available at the clerk's office for the general public to review? So that we know what you're talking about when
After the ordinance is introduced.
On first reading.
Yes, the same procedures that are followed for every ordinance will be followed for this one.
Oh, okay, and then just...
And it will be posted on the website after introduction.
I don't do computer well. All right, the other one is just an oddity. The bus stop on Baldwin Road, if you travel the highway, has already been moved. They do get, and it's very nicely done, by the way. There's a pad there, and there's a sign there. That's where you wait for the bus.
They had to move it,
Yeah,
this
which
is a
was a-
formality. They had to move
Right.
it before they opened the entrance
Oh, yeah, which makes
to the
it
shopping
much,
center.
Yeah, it makes it much safer. I mean,
Yes.
there's no question about it. And then my only other comment, and I understand these people's plight about their lake situation, but dredging is not an easy project. I was involved in a dredging project, and let me tell you, the DEP is stringent. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, we got this, thank you.
Presents? Who owns it? Is it our obligation?
If I can read it.
Do we have public access to it?
What's that?
Hello, everyone. Roy Mesmer, 10 Drumlin Drive. I see Ed still here. I got back today after a few days off, and I see two people are getting what they deserve. Ziggy and A-Rod. You know that makes me happy. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Give you a little update regarding the boarding house occupancy tax. What I handed out today is what they do in Delaware. It's not just Fenwick Island, it's all the towns. Like I said a couple weeks ago, our township attorney and I are on the same page on this. His staff did a crackerjack job on it. We spoke about fines, penalties, whatever you want to call it. It's listed right in there. There's all German through these veins, but I love being a Jap and I have to be. I'll take somebody else's information and make it better. Regarding the update, after the Parsippany Life article came out, I received 3 phone calls. Possible other boarding houses. So we're pushing 30 easily that I'm aware of and people have contacted me on. Again, repeat myself, you see the Delaware regulation there. A couple weeks, topic 2. Baldwin House. I wrote you guys a memo a couple weeks ago regarding a status. I remember that Councilman Jonathan Nelson brought up that there were windows broken in that house, etc. Some damage was done. I don't know if that's been fixed. Regarding the project that the Wilfs will be doing on Smith Road, the sheep farm is 2/10 of a mile up. I'd rather see the recreational equipment like we have up at Mountain Way done there, not disturb the property anymore down on Smith. It is a beautiful piece of property. Something to consider regarding recreational areas, Mayor. Last week, I caught a beautiful bass at that pond off of Route 53 across from Dr. Warner, the veterinarian's hospital. There's somebody in this room that has a picture of it. They could show it to us maybe at the next meeting. But that would be a great recreational area for people to fish at. I only caught 1 bass, first cast out, and landed about 1.5 pound largemouth bass. Fished for another hour, didn't catch
Right, enough
one.
of the fish stories.
I know.
Keep moving.
But it's a recreational area. This lady spoke about her recreational area too, and something should be done about that. The next thing is quite disturbing. I wish the police officers were still here, and I saw that Chief Phillips had left. On July 30th at 11:40 a.m., I was leaving my neighborhood. A woman that lives right behind me, which would have been the house across where Chief Peckerman used to live, was bolting home because her daughter saw somebody come to their front door, rattle her door handle. It's like your political flyers, this canvassing thing. It scared the living hell out of her 15-year-old daughter. She had to leave her place to work. The township clerk's office, Leslie Clark, was excellent regarding this. And the police responded extremely fast. I wasn't even out of my neighborhood and they were there. But it was a Hispanic guy who couldn't speak English, was just taking orders from his boss, putting this on everybody's door in my neighborhood. We all know what's going on in this country. People are shooting people. You know, we all heard about the case in Florida, but the one in Minnesota is just as frightening, except maybe that one was white on white and didn't get the press. But something like this could happen in our neighborhood. If we don't crack down on this, and I understand, there's nobody a bigger capitalist than me and a businessman, but this can't go on. Somebody's going to get hurt. And I don't know, it's like everything, you know, if I go over the speed limit, I should get a ticket. But you know, nobody should be given a warning with this. They should be fined immediately. And like I said, Leslie Clark gave me all the information. She knew it backwards and forwards. Our police department didn't know it backwards and forwards. So I'm not going to say which captain it was right now, but the only ones that can do this, which really does bother me though too, is nonprofit organizations. Again, passed by our federal government. They can go to your door. Next thing, this might not be the place. Somebody might want to hit me in the face, but something's got to be done in this town, and somebody's got to bring it up. Regarding debates, I brought up to the mayor, it was a funny thing, I showed him the other day, you know, I was wearing a Curly for President shirt from Three Stooges, but you guys should have 3 debates at Town Hall, different format. It's our public property. I only have 30 seconds.
Yep.
You know what, I'm done. Oh no, the Montefusco thing, we're on top of that, John? Suing him?
Why don't you conclude your time, and then I'll address that.
Well, I have a couple more things, but I'm not going to have enough time. The thing, though, John, I did bring this up to John Fox and John Cesaro, and they were council people. That's who really got the ball rolling on this. Don't leave out that copier machine, or fax, not fax, what do they call that? Microfiche machine. It was like a $30,000 machine that the feds burnt out.
Right,
That's
time's
it.
up, Roy. Thanks.
Okay, any questions?
I'll respond to the Baldwin House. I had a meeting last week in regards to the Baldwin House. I got your memo. Thank you. And I met with Randy Tortorello on the Historical Preservation Committee, as well as Historical Society, and Gabe Yacarino, and all those items. One of the items that you talked about, the window and stuff, other repairs, or we're looking into, and we're talking about usage now for the building and how it's going to be used. And once we get that information, I'll forward that information to the council, and we'll go forward with that. So I just want to, update you on that. There's some things that have to be done.
Roy, I have a comment on your boarding house topic, too. Your last 2 times you brought it up at council meetings, I did say that I did not believe that we have any residential area in Parsippany that allowed boarding houses. I asked our township planner to check into that. He's right behind you, and he wrote a memo stating just that. We have no residential properties in the township where boarding houses are legal. By definition, boarding house being 90 days or less rental. That's great for shore property up here. It's not in our ordinance, so I don't know how we could tax something that is not legal in our town.
Well, I have not received Mr. Snykes' memo, which I'd like to do, but the question of whether or not you can prohibit boarding houses is a legal question. It's a constitutional question, is one that my office is reviewing at Councilman DePiero's request. I will have a legal memo prepared well in advance of the next meeting.
Well, Mr. Inglesino, if that's true, why don't we just eliminate all of the zoning? If all of this is illegal, why do we have R1, R2, R3, R4 with specific requirements for these residential zones if we can't stop anybody from doing anything they want to do?
Well, the question isn't whether or not you can stop anyone from doing anything they want to do. The question is whether or not you can exclude, whether it's constitutionally permitted to exclude boarding houses in a residential zone. And I'm not giving you an opinion now, but I want to define the issue that needs to be addressed. The fact that the zoning ordinance is silent on the question really doesn't mean anything. And there are cases, and I think our New Jersey State Supreme Court has considered the question, frankly, I have received a draft which I've been through and commented on and raised some additional questions. So my office is working on it, I'm working on it, and we'll be prepared to provide a memo on that issue in advance of the next meeting. I would obviously like to confer with Mr. Snykes as well, but it's not a planning issue, it's a legal issue, it's a constitutional issue, and I just want to address it so at least we get it right.
So then if someone has a 5 or 6 bedroom house, because they added up over the garage, and now they have a 6 bedroom house, and they want to rent out 5 of those bedrooms to people during the summer, and a residential place, the next door neighbors can't complain and we could not stop them.
That's the issue that we are reviewing, and we'll have an answer for you at the next meeting, before the next meeting. In fact,
That makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck.
Councilman DePiero, I'll certainly reach out and confer with you and meet with you to go over the memo, as soon as it's prepared, and I think probably within the next week or so, we'll be at that point. I don't want to, I'm just saying, I just want to define the issue. I'm not providing you with an opinion at this juncture, but that's the issue.
From a layman's perspective, I'm sure that if there's not overcrowding in that house and they want to rent it out, there's probably little we can do without drafting an ordinance for it.
Well, I'm sure that everyone who owns a single-family home in Parsippany zoned either R1, R2, R3, or even R4, okay, would be really uneasy if the big house next door to them, they have no control over and we have no control over. I mean, we can enforce health ordinance, but that's about it. Even our stacking ordinance or overcrowding ordinance wouldn't affect this if they have 5 legitimate bedrooms that they're renting out. I mean, this is an issue I'm concerned about now.
You'd be surprised how many people will stay in a 6-bedroom home.
Ma'am, you can come up and talk when you have your 5 minutes if you'd like.
Mr. Council President, just to address the issue about Montefusco, there is an action that was filed some years ago by the victims' rights folks in federal court under federal law. I've spoken with Mr. Pompilio, who's the attorney, and that action is pending. He's just delivered to my office the briefs and so forth, which we're digesting. But essentially, it's a civil action filed in federal court under a federal law, and it seeks restitution for the township on expenses incurred by the township in connection with the criminal matter. As the planning board attorney, most of the compensation is through escrow fees that are established by developers that appear before the board. So, the township really isn't out very much in the way of monies that are paid to its planning board and zoning board professionals. However, there were expenses, and I think the papers that I saw that were submitted totaled about $173,000 of expenses incurred by the township in connection with the criminal investigation and matters surrounding Mr. Montefusco. And again, those papers are pending. There is a motion, I think, that has been scheduled in federal court, and it's the U.S. Attorney's Office, the civil division of the U.S. Attorney's Office, that is counsel on the case. And the fact that a federal judge has decided to hear it and hear a motion on the issue certainly suggests that the issue is getting some resonance in the federal court. We're digesting the papers. I'm really not sure there's much for the township to do because, Mr. Mesmer, the case is really already been filed and is pending under what I gather is sort of a novel but, perhaps effective legal theory. And I'll keep you informed as I learn more.
Dave Kaplan, 263 Intervale. Yesterday, I confirmed with the clerk that water review ordinance was removed from the agenda. Accordingly, I informed over 500 concerned people associated with the citizens group that the ordinance was removed. Almost simultaneously, the same information was released by the clerk's office to the local press, who ran an online article informing readers that the ordinance was delayed again. This followed the same pattern as last month, when the ordinance was removed at the 11th hour. However, this time it was suspiciously put back on the agenda around 8 o'clock last night.
It's apparent to me that there's some concern over the timing of this ordinance. One only needs to look back to the most recent election when the two candidates who were outspoken against the development won their primary. And now it seems to me that the ordinance is all of a sudden being rushed in ahead of the general election because if these two men win, there may not be enough votes for this ordinance to pass. It's highly concerning to me as a resident of Parsippany that politics is coming before the voices of the residents who are going to be most impacted by this monstrous development. This is not an ordinance that is to be rushed. It's one that needs to be fully processed, fully vetted, and the implications of which need to be fully understood. Rushing this through for the sake of local politics will be disastrous and will have consequences that will be eternally negative for the residents of this community and for those of our neighboring community. There was clearly enough concern to delay this ordinance in the past. Please do not feel pressured by this developer or any of those who are politically aligned with this group to rush something that is so obviously needs to be further processed. Thank you.
Nancy Duterte, 41 Lake Drive, Mountain Lakes, and I wholeheartedly agree with what Dave just said, and I would like to add to that. First of all, was this put on the consent agenda? Is that why we didn't hear about it?
No, there's no consent agenda.
But so how do, I couldn't, there were no more agendas left, so I don't know where Waterview stands. So it's definitely, how did it get on, is my question.
It's on, this meeting, the purpose of this meeting is to set the agenda for what will be considered at the next meeting.
Oh, I understand what an agenda meeting is.
Okay, well, and then
I'm asking a more
to your
specific question. So how did Waterview get on this agenda? Because I haven't seen the actual copy of the agenda.
Because the clerk's office put it on the agenda.
Okay, and you all chose not to discuss it at all tonight?
It's not a choosing to discuss the ordinance. It's just going to be on the agenda. It'll be voted on as it'll run the course of every ordinance. The other ordinances that were listed on the agenda were not discussed either unless somebody had a question about it. Again, the point here is just to set the agenda for the next meeting.
I understand. I'm just trying not to be in the dark because for some reason we keep being told one thing and then told a different thing, and then when we get here we're not told anything. So I'm just trying to get it straight, that's all.
It's just moving through the process
Okay,
the way every ordinance does.
It will be on the agenda for introduction for first reading on August 20th, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I would just like to make a couple of comments because I think that a rezoning is kind of like a sneeze. You can't take it back once you've done it. And certainly, the land that's there is the last POD. It's pristine woodlands, you all know that. And the only argument that I have heard raised by the government to date for creating a rezoning out of the current POD is because it will theoretically increase ratables, tax revenues to Parsippany. So I would just like you all to think about a couple of things when you finally decide to vote on it for on August 20th for the introduction. First of all, to my knowledge, there have been no fiscal impact studies, no cost-benefit studies done to see if this rezoning is in any way going to benefit the town. I think that's an absolute necessity before anybody decides to vote in favor of this. Second of all, if you had taken a look at any of the existing studies on big box development, strip malls, and that kind of commercial retail developments, you would understand that they actually destroy local economies. They will have the exact opposite effect of bringing in increased ratables. So you need to think very, very carefully before you decide to rezone, because as I said, it's like a sneeze. You can't take it back. All right? So there are some solutions, okay? You will actually bring in more revenues if you stick with your tiny little local businesses, because you keep your tax dollars in the town of Parsippany. I mean, with big box, with Target, do you know where they're going? Do you have any idea what city? They're not going to stay in Parsippany for sure. Another thing is, if you look at some of these studies that have been done, they clearly state that you will get other better revenues generated from different types of commercial land uses, if that's what you're going for, such as business parks, offices, hotels. Okay, that's what we got already. We got POD. Why do we need to rezone? Furthermore, if you go with farmland, forest, or open space, these will actually generate more revenue than they cost the town in terms of public service. Once you start getting involved in big box and strip malls, all of a sudden you are stuck with tons and tons of hidden costs, but you need the
30
fiscal
seconds.
impact studies.
30 seconds, ma'am.
So I would just suggest that when you're considering voting on whether or not this is even a smart idea to introduce a concept of rezoning when we don't need it, and it's going to have a detrimental impact, that you at least take a look at the studies. Thank you.
Good evening, John Beeler, 51 Intervale Road. First of all, I'd like to thank the members of the council for their public service. I'd like to thank them for protecting the rights of its residents and doing their best to protect Parsippany now and in the future. It is the legacy that you leave behind, and one you will be measured by and thanked for in years, perhaps generations to come in Parsippany. I'd like to thank you, Councilman Stanton, Councilman DiPiero, Councilman Ferrara, Councilman Nelson, and Councilman Karifi for listening to the concerns of Parsippany residents. I know sometimes it can be a thankless job, and that's from sitting on this side of the bench, so you have my respect. I will not speak of corruption or gamesmanship that others may speak of when it comes to how business might be being conducted in the town. I believe you are victims of it yourselves, much the way the concerned residents are. I sincerely hope that you see the monkey business surrounding this project, or that it has become clear to you as well. I hope you are able to put an end to it now and in the future when it happens, with this or anything else. The magnitude of this proposed project and the implications of changing the zoning laws to accommodate this overlay are great indeed. Such a change is not confined to this one project, but will dictate many future projects. It definitely will affect more than just the one area, as other developers will line up wanting the same thing elsewhere in the town. Out of fairness to the one, will you or us be able to stop any of them after this? Please think on what happens after allowing this type of project and how the increasing burdens that it will create can offset any short-term gains. Please dispute a one-sided analysis of the positive economic aspects of low-paying retail jobs and tax revenue gains without costs of any sort. I appeal to you, Brian, Michael, Vincent, Paul, and Jonathan, to weigh this project in terms of its overall effect by having a real financial impact study done. A real traffic study has been done and provided to the town that says wait times will increase as much as 30 minutes at some intersections, but still no official economic or environmental study has been done yet. So I appeal to you. Have a real independent economic and environmental study done. Share the results with its residents. Put it up on the town website for all to see. Weigh its costs and benefits after being provided with a good independent representation of the project. All while understanding that it will be followed by waves of the same over and over as developers line up to ask the same of Parsippany afterward. We know what it is called when zoning for a piece of land is changed not for the benefit of the greater good, but for the benefit of the developer. We elected you to protect the health, safety, and welfare of us as residents. Protect us. You all have the opportunity to be heroes of our town. That is why we voted for you and asked you to represent us. Please do not let us, Parsippany, or its future generations down. Thank you.
Sorry, did you sign in?
Pat Petaccio, 182 Hawkins Avenue. I've got 3 things I'd like to talk about tonight. One of the things is the PBA increase that's coming out soon. If it is okayed, I think these fees are getting ridiculous. Even though we're not paying them, I still think they're ridiculous. Anybody that sees somebody working and a cop car is there, the cop car is just sitting there. The cop's either sitting in the car or the cop's standing outside talking. $75? Hey, get somebody that doesn't have a job that can do this. I just think it's a waste, and if it is done, that we give it to the lower paid policemen to do those kind of jobs. My second topic is, and I'd like a response at the end of my time, please. Jonathan Nelson. Reading the article about him being denied access to department heads. My personal opinion, I am a resident of Parsippany. I voted for Mr. Nelson, as I voted for other people up there. But we elected him to do a job, and part of that job, to me, is knowing what's going on. And if somebody asks him to help him, I think he has every right, as I think anybody else up there has every right to go in. You were elected by us, but I'd like you to do the job we elected you to do. We don't want you to be stonewalled. And I think that is an abuse of power, and I also think it might be political in nature. And I'm getting tired of watching these things occur. So I am asking why this was done, and I would like an answer, please. The last thing I'd like to speak about is something that I've mentioned twice already before. The fiasco that happened at the No Country Club after the firemen had their little gathering. Paula had given us an explanation of what went on, and that there was no criminal activity. In my opinion, and I checked with some cops I know, family-wise, and they indicated that there could have been some criminal charges involved here. So I went out and I pulled up the New Jersey Code of Criminal Justice statutes, and I came across 3. Criminal mischief, unlicensed entry of structures, unlawful taking of means of conveyance. We have 2 policemen up there, sheriff and a policeman. I'd like your opinions on this. I've asked for this council to do their own investigation. I know our Faulkner law says the mayor can do what he wants. But to me, this is a travesty. This should not have happened. Taxpayers should not have been blinded. We had people take things that did not belong to them and use them at the No Country Club. There should have been, and if I'm not mistaken, that question was asked whether a police report was done. Why wasn't it done? Anytime something happens like that, a policeman is always called. The police department is always called. Why wasn't it called this time? I would like answers to these questions, and I would seriously like this council to think about doing their own investigation and getting the answers that are needed. Taxpayers want to know what happened. I want to know what happened. I pay my taxes.
30 seconds, Pat.
All right, so if anybody can answer me up here tonight, now before I leave, regarding this one and then the other explanations later, what can you do? Brian, you're a sheriff. Does this seem reasonable to you?
Pat, to be honest, the people that I talked to, I got the same answers. There was no damage, there was nothing. Yep. I wasn't there. There's nothing more I could do.
Yeah, no, I know you're like no damages
I
and
hate
stuff.
it, yeah.
But Paula had said that because they didn't break in to a building, that there was no criminal acts. You don't need to break into a building to have a criminal act. You as a sheriff should know the laws.
But you need somebody to accuse and make an accusation, and that's not even there, Pat. There's no one coming out saying he, she, it's just not there.
Well, it's not there because it was not.
Rumor mill's a rumor mill. When you talk to people and you're getting the answer and no one's giving the answers, there was
Yes,
nothing.
and taxpayers, another taxpayer asked you, the council, to bring forward the chiefs of that fire district and question them as to what happened that evening. Paula left it into the firehouse's hands. Shouldn't have been handed over to them. So I really do think more needs to be done with this. Nothing is being transparent in this administration. And I, for one, am getting tired.
I'm going to respond to Pat Pataccia's with this whole thing with the department heads, if I may. You're absolutely correct. It is political. You become very political in this matter with Mr. Nelson, in fact. You have no clue what transpired at Town Hall. You don't know if I got a complaint from an employee. I got a complaint from an employee about being harassed. And as the mayor of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills, I won't let anybody harass our employees. So when I got that memo from that employee, not a memo, a meeting with that employee, I had to take action. And I took action, Pat. And I would take action on any council member that did that. And I've stated many times, I don't gag any council members. Most council members have the respect to tell me they're talking to another department head. All you got to do is go read the state statute 40:698-37-1, and what that says: in any municipality adopting the mayor council plan of government, the municipal council shall deal with employees of the Department of Administration and other administrative departments solely through the mayor or his designee. I've never done that. Many council members call me up out of respect. But once I get an official harassment, I have to respond to it, and I responded to it. And I would do it again if I had to. But that being said, since the complaint has been filed, I can't just come out and say at your leisure what you want to know, because that's a personnel matter.
Okay, so it's a personnel matter, but John...
Your time's up. I'm sorry, your time's up.
I didn't hear my
No.
time up.
You said answer the questions after the 5 minutes. That's what we're doing. You don't get to ask questions back or answer anything. Your time's
My
up.
5 minutes is up.
Yes.
But Pat, I will respond as best as I can. I have no idea who I harassed.
Thank you, Jonathan. I mean, you know...
Of course Jonathan's going to say that.
I have no idea.
Excuse me.
The papers asked.
Of course Jonathan is going to say that.
I know. Please, your time's up.
If I may just respond to Pat, too. And this is not implying that Jonathan Nelson is using a lot of time from our department heads. It has happened in the past over the years that I've been a councilman. I know when Frank Priori was the mayor, there were some individuals and some councilmen and councilwomen who were asking for lots and lots of information and reports. And when some of the work was not getting done, and Mayor Priori asked, well, this is what you were supposed to be doing, why aren't you doing this? So we said, well, the councilman asked me for all this over here. So Frank put what we're calling this gag order. He put that on only so he could know what kind of a workload these questions were putting on his department heads who had responsibilities to run their departments. And that was, he was not stopping someone from asking a department question. He wanted to know how much time this person was taking from that department head who could not perform his own job. So I'm not implying anything here about this particular issue. I'm just saying that this has happened in the past, and why a gag order, quote.
Okay.
That's a nasty term.
At first, it's not. It may,
All right.
may
Now,
respond.
regarding the golf carts, if the individuals who took the carts out, the 2 carts out, had put them back, no one will ever know. There was no damage to the carts, no damage to the golf course. The only reason they even knew something had occurred was because the carts were left outside. No charges were pressed by anybody. No superintendent did not press charges, so there was no reason for him to call a police report. He didn't see any damage, anything that was wrong. So I'm not sure it can be classified as a cover-up. It was explained to me there was no damage. The carts were right there and put right back near the garage, and so he didn't feel it was necessary.
If I may add to that, being in law enforcement, the scenario you just gave, regardless of if the carts were taken and there was no damage, they were left outside, these carts, if they were taken, whether there was a lock on the shed or the garage or not, they were taken out. That, and maybe to that statute that Ms. Pataglia read, is considered a crime. Whether somebody leaves their garage door open, it's not locked, somebody goes in, takes their car out, pulls it out in the driveway, pulls it back in, they went in, they took that item without permission. So if in fact golf carts were taken out, even though there was no lock on there, taken out, joyrided, whatever, no damage is done, I would believe, and I would have to double check the statute, but I would believe that that still fits under a crime. So maybe we could have the police department, I mean, you just stated that the golf carts were taken out of there, so why, I mean, maybe that there should be something that should be looked into. Because if they were taken out, they weren't authorized to be taken out, and there's a problem with that.
Pat, I wasn't going to bring it up. I'm actually surprised that you did. A resident called me up. There was property on New Road that hadn't been mowed properly, and it was creating a visual hazard. They had told me they contacted the administration and didn't get a satisfactory answer or no answer. I'm not really sure. So I placed a call to the zoning officer, but I was never allowed to speak to her because the administration decided that I cannot, and that's purely administrative decision, and if administration wants to do that, he has every right to do it.
If I may also add, Mr. Nelson brings that incident up, but that's not the incident that did it. He knows who he's talked to and what he has said.
I have no idea.
And, well, come to my office and I'll clue you in. Because it gets serious after a while.
This is a personal issue. I'm more than happy to say you can go public with it, 'cause I have no idea.
Well, it's a personnel issue.
Well, it's me, so I'm saying
There'd be no mentioning of municipal employee names.
Good evening. My name is Margaret Gossett. I live in Mountain Lakes, and I would like to talk briefly, I won't take 5 minutes, about the significant impact of big box stores on taxes and public costs. Many cities assume that a development of shopping centers and big box stores will yield a financial windfall. The tax benefits often prove to be a mirage. When evaluating a retail development proposal, developers and municipal officials often focus on only one side of the equation, the amount of new tax revenue that the project will generate. It's easy to overlook the fact that retail development also creates new costs and often leads to a decline in tax revenue from existing commercial districts. In the case of big box stores and strip malls, these costs and revenue losses can be so high that they reduce the overall tax benefit of the development to a negligible trickle or even result in a net loss for the city. There are overlooked costs and hidden costs. One of the costs would be due to lost sales tax or lost taxes, rateables, from existing small businesses that would be impacted by big box. Studies have shown that businesses within 5 miles of a big box are negatively impacted due to lost sales, and eventually some of these small businesses close. Also, declining tax revenue from existing business districts and shopping centers. And then there are new costs for providing public services to the development, namely police services, ongoing road maintenance, fire, water, and sewer. Because the information supplied to developers is typically incomplete and may not represent an unbiased analysis of the public costs and the benefit of the project, a growing number of cities now require that retail development proposals undergo a comprehensive fiscal impact analysis conducted by an independent consultant chosen by the municipality and paid for by a fee assessed to the developer. Such an analysis can provide you with the tools you need to make a good decision about rezoning a property in your municipality. Thank you.
Mr. Council President, I'm going to thank you. May I digress for a moment? May I ask Councilman Karifi a question? Yeah, no, right now, before I forget.
Okay.
Has Councilman Karifi ever been prevented from speaking to department heads?
Yes.
Were you prevented from speaking to department heads because you were harassing?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'd like to respond to that. You can clap all you want, sir, but that's beside the point. I can clarify that situation with Mr. Karifi, if I may. He continued to call the Department of Parks and Forestry about trees in an area where he canvassed. And all I asked him is that all you do, if you can notify me, because I think I even saved the email, could you please notify me in regards to when you do that so I can log it in and we can be up to date on things. And that's basically it. And in that instance, Mr. Karifi, I had no issue with him, but in that instance, the Parks and Forestry Director called me up and said, you know, I've been getting calls in regards to a tree that's tilting, and I responded to Mr. Karifi by email. Nice try, Councilman Nelson.
Hi, my name is Jackie.
That's not true.
Jackie Bay from Mountain Lakes. What can I say? It's clear you guys have a lot of issues up there, and
It's election time.
It's a complicated place. I'm going to be a little inflammatory this evening and say that I went to the movies today with my kids. And this is the movie I saw, and it sparked the idea for this poster, which says Parsippany Council Minion RD Realty. Now, if I were you, this would make me angry. I mean, because I would not want to be presented with a, oh, I'm seeing a quizzical look. My husband did the same thing. He said, I don't know what it means. So a minion is a little character that follows the directions of the big boss, be they good, bad, or ugly. They follow all directions without questioning because they just follow directions. So if I were you, that would make me angry. And believe me, I'm not the type of person that likes to come up and embarrass elected prominent officials and takes it upon myself to be a rabble-rouser. I just would ask that you think from an objective perspective what this process looks like. And I'm going to lay out a timeline, and some of the things, to complete fairness, have nothing to do with the council. It really started with the planning board, and I recognize that you're not the planning board, although some of you sit on the planning board. But if you look at it objectively, because I really have to wonder, when Mr. Inglesino said that this is moving through like every other ordinance, I have to ask myself, as an outsider, really? Is this how it works? Because if you start with January, when we asked for the traffic study and we called the planning board secretary and we were told it did not exist, was not available, call back next week. Call back next week, spoke to Ms. Peg Mater again, was told that the traffic study still wasn't available, call me tomorrow. Called her tomorrow, oh, the traffic study is here, you can come visit it. I can come visit it. I need to get this to independent experts to analyze it. Oh, we can't do that. You can come see it in the office hours from 9 to 5. I said, well, that's not really very practical. So I called her back the next day. I need a copy of this. Well, geez, I can't do that. Call her back. Okay, you can have a copy for $16. I get a copy that is this thick, all irregular pages, nothing that could have been run through a copy machine. So I call her back and I say, okay, we need another copy because I'm going to have to send this, one to my borough council, one to our lawyer, one to our tribe. So she said, oh. Then all of a sudden, an electronic link materializes to a study. I got it at Friday at 3 p.m. This was a study that was completed October 25th, 2012. I get a copy of it in February. I get an electronic link. You can't tell me that that link was not there in October. This is how we communicate in this day and age. All right? So then we get to the planning board meeting where we are told this is not the time to bring up all of these conversations and these experts and this testimony. You can bring people next meeting. You can bring experts. They can go on the record. We brought our lawyer. We brought our groundwater expert. And lo and behold, they're not allowed to speak. Well, they were told the following meeting they could speak. Now they can't speak. Our lawyer fought his way in to be able to speak, but our groundwater expert was never allowed to speak, despite what had been promised. And then there's the cat and mouse game with the location. Oh, it's going to be in this high school. Oh, no, it's going to be in this high school. So we're scrambling all the time to figure out where is it going to be and how we can get the word out to everybody. Then it's the game of, it's on the agenda, it's off the agenda. Oh my goodness, it's back on the agenda. How difficult is it to get people who obviously care? We've sat here all night long through everything else. We can't even find out when it's on the agenda because it changes all the time. Is this really how every ordinance is run in this town? I can't believe that. And then even with holding the ordinance itself, we have an email flyer, for a header rather, that says the ordinance was available on July 10th. On the meeting on July 16th, you told everybody it wasn't available. Our lawyer doesn't get it until the 24th. That's fully 2 weeks after we believe the ordinance was available. Why is the ordinance withheld for 2 weeks? I mean, just when you look at something insulting like this, it's not my objective to be insulting, but look at how the process looks. It looks bad. And to what Mr. Beeler said, this is your legacy.
30 seconds.
It looks bad. It doesn't look like the open and transparent government that Pat was talking about in the newspaper a couple of weeks ago. I have to believe that, that there's something going on with this ordinance that is different from the ordinary. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Gretchen Fry, Mountain Lakes. I don't have anything prepared to say tonight. I wasn't even going to come here tonight, but when you can hear how angry I am. I'll try to contain myself. When I heard this, what you just heard, this pattern of deception, as it appears, from council, from all of the people involved, I thought, they can't possibly be that disorganized. They can't, this isn't, I mean, you run a huge city here. Is it a pattern of deception? Are you trying to make sure that these citizens, these 500 citizens, do not get their chance to speak, chance to hear what's going on? I mean, it just sounds horrible. But what I want to say is, my husband and I own 2 companies. During the course of 25 years of business, if we had conducted our business without a cost-benefit analysis, if you want to call it an economic fiscal responsibility project, if we had made business decisions without seriously looking at operational costs, at the long-term cost of the project, doing an assessment of how that would impact other, say for instance in our case, other product lines, other businesses, other existing tax bases. If we made decisions in a vacuum dependent upon what we thought our either manufacturers or consumers wanted, that is, just like the developer, whatever the developer wants. If we believed everything that we wanted to believe, we would be engaged in wishful thinking, not in a good business plan. So I will reiterate it, what they were saying about their economic fiscal responsibility. One thing I just wanted to also say, make sure that everybody heard that, because I heard that today too, and I said, God, I've got to come tonight. The developer will pay for it in other localities. The developer pays the cost of this assessment. So let's get on the bandwagon. Let's get them to pay for it and really end this once and for all. Is this a good business decision in the short run? Is it a good business decision in the long run? I mean, you know, you got to think about this stuff. Anyway, good night.
As was indicated at previous council meetings, there will be a fiscal impact analysis that has already been performed in draft. And it is not legal to have the developer pay for the fiscal impact analysis at the zone change level, at least not in the state of New Jersey. If the zone ordinance is adopted, and if the project proceeds to the planning board for site plan approval, then at that time, the township's professional fees will be paid by the developer, you know, pursuant to an escrow established in accordance with New Jersey law.
Okay, you know what? Then I would say that let's call it something else. Let's do a cost-benefit analysis. Let's look at the operational cost, the cost to. I mean, when I took a glance at this study that they were referring to on big box retail, the cost, the extra costs, just for security alone, shoplifting calls, police calls, maintenance, I mean, it goes on and on and on, the list of costs to the town. Then you have to balance it against the cost, the lost cost in revenue from the other businesses that it impacts. I mean, there's a long, long list, but it's not that complicated to get a feel for it, because you guys have experience with the town and the town's costs. Put it on paper, consider it. Maybe not in a formal way, but at least really, really look at it, and not just what the developer's saying. And I understand ratables are important, but look at what you're really going to get. That's it.
Seeing no one else come forward, I'll entertain a motion to close the public session.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Karifi, second by Mr. Farrar. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into a closed session for prospective and ongoing litigation.
I second.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr.
Sorry.
Farrar.
And personnel?
And personnel.
And contract negotiations?
And contract
And
negotiations.
attorney-client privilege?
Motion by Mr. Farrar.
Second.
Second by Mr. Karifi. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes, resolution, whereas the Open Public Meeting Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231 permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, whereas Township Council, in the opinion such circumstances presently exist, whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss attorney-client privilege, personal matters, contract negotiations, and litigation, whereas minutes will be kept once the matter involving confidentiality of the above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be resolved by Township Council, Parsippany-Troy Hills, public be excluded from this meeting. Motion by myself,
Second.
second by Mr. DiPiero. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara? Yes. Mr. Nelson? Yes. Mr. Stanton?
Yes.
I make a motion to go back in session.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Farrar, second by Mr. Karifi. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Mr. Stanton?
Yes, at this time I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
So move.
Motion by Karifi, second by Farrar. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson? Mr. Stanton?
Yes. Good night. Nobody.
Good night, everybody.
Everyone left.
Thank you.